This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
Good morning. 18 COVID cases at PMH. A family loses two loved ones in separate tragedies on the same day. And SBF pleads not guilty in his trial on fraud charges. That's set for October in the U.S. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's here. It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Chester Robards will be joining us. But first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while you're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, noting that COVID never went away, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville says there are 18 COVID cases at Princess Margaret Hospital. Darville says there is an additional COVID patient in the intensive care unit. He says that COVID never went away and COVID's been around from the time that the mask mandates were lifted, and that the hospitals have been dealing with situations associated with COVID since then and before then, of course. He says, but they have a handle on the situation. The Ministry of Health and Wellness on November 14th put into effect the relaxation of the mask mandate in schools throughout the country. October 1st, the mask mandate was relaxed for most sectors except for schools, healthcare facilities, and elderly facilities. Mask wearing remains in effect for both facilities. When asked if the restrictions could be reinforced, Darville says there's always a possibility. When asked about a potential effect of the Bahamas by the latest Omicron variant, XBB.1.5, which accounts for 40% of rapidly spreading COVID cases across the United States, Darville says as far as they know, they don't have that here. Since June 21st, fewer than 2,000 new cases have been recorded. The Bahamas has confirmed more than 37,200 COVID cases and over 800 deaths since March 2020. In other news, family dealt a double blow when two relatives were killed in separate incidents on the same day. It happened on January 2nd. 26-year-old Laurenique Taylor was shot and killed while she slept after intruders broke into her home on Mantall Street in Montel Heights shortly before 3 a.m. 32-year-old Kevin Andrews was also shot dead in that incident. Police reported the incident but have not yet formally identified the victims in the first recorded murders of the year. Police say they were questioning 2 men in relation to the crimes. Both men were on bail for armed robbery and were being electronically monitored. Police say that one of the suspects reportedly had a previous altercation with Andrews. Well, just hours after Taylor's death, her 16-year-old cousin, Gino Hanna Jr., was the front seat passenger in a burgundy Suzuki Alto that collided with a black Ford Explorer on Bernard Road near L.W. Young Junior High. According to police, the incident took place around 9 a.m. on Monday, and the jaws of life had to be used to remove the victims from their vehicles. The teen died on Monday night. The driver of the Ford Explorer was treated and discharged from the hospital, and the driver of the Suzuki was listed in serious but stable condition. Family members now left to grapple with dealing with the loss of 2 loved ones, again on the same day. The Bahamas recorded the largest number of repatriations of illegal immigrants in a very long time, according to Immigration and Labor Minister Keith Bell. Although he didn't provide figures, he said they had significant numbers of people who were repatriated. The Bahamas saw an influx of illegal migrants within the past year, with most coming from Haiti. Up to December of last year, the Defense Force recorded the apprehension of at least 3,249 undocumented migrants. Of that figure, 2,620 Haitians and 623 Cubans were apprehended up to the end of November. In 2021, that number was 1,644 migrants and 249 in 2020, 342 in 2019. And Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of the now bankrupt cryptocurrency exchange FTX, which was headquartered in the Bahamas, appearing in a New York court and pleading not guilty to charges that he committed fraud. The plea was made by Bankman-Fried's lawyer, Mark Cohen. The 30-year-old Bankman-Fried, also known as SBF, appeared before Judge Lewis Kaplan. SBF is on $250 million bond. His parents co-signed the bond, and 2 additional sureties will also have to sign separate bonds in lesser amounts. They've yet to do so. Before the arraignment, Cohen sent a letter to Judge Kaplan requesting that the names and other identifying information of the 2 remaining bail sureties be redacted on the bonds they will sign and not be publicly disclosed by the U.S. government. Cohen writing that Bankman-Fried has become, or his parents have become, the target of intense media scrutiny, harassment, and threats. And he says that the parents have received a steady stream of threatening correspondence, including communications expressing a desire that they suffer physical harm. Consequently, this is according to the lawyer, there's serious cause for concern that the additional sureties would face similar intrusions. Judge Kaplan granted that request. SBF will remain on bail. His trial set for October 2nd before Kaplan. Overseas police in Somalia say 2 suicide car bombers killed at least 10 people early today when they targeted a military facility in a region at the heart of the government's offensive against al-Shabaab extremists. The attack occurred in the Mahaz region of Hiran after the dawn prayer. Police say that they were told that the vehicles exploded in a neighborhood full of civilians and at least 10 people were killed. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attack. Mahas is at the center of the ongoing government offensive against Al-Shabaab, the Al-Qaeda-linked group of thousands of fighters that has controlled parts of central and southern Somalia for years. The government has vowed to defeat it this year. And the United States Embassy in Cuba is reopening visa and consular services today for the first time it's done so since a spate of unexplained health incidents among diplomatic staff in 2017 slashed the American presence in Havana. The embassy confirmed this week it will begin processing immigrant visas with a priority placed on permits to reunite Cubans with family in the U.S. and others like the diversity visa lottery. The resumption comes amid the greatest migratory flight from Cuba in decades, which has placed pressure on the Biden administration to open more legal pathways to Cubans and start a dialogue with the Cuban government, despite an historically tense relationship. They are anticipated to give out at least 20,000 visas a year, though it's just a drop in the bucket of the migratory tide, which is fueled by intensifying economic and political crises on the island. In late December, U.S. authorities reported stopping Cubans 34,675 times along the Mexico border in November, up from 21% from 28,848 times in October. Month to month, that number has gradually risen. Cubans are now the second largest nationality after Mexicans appearing on the border, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection data. In sports, 2022, an historic year for the Bahamas senior men's national basketball team, making significant inroads internationally, leading to that being the main reason they were chosen unanimously as the Nassau Guardians Team of the Year. The team advanced to the second round of the FIBA, the International Basketball Federation's Basketball World Cup Americas qualifiers in July, representing the first time the nation got that far in basketball. It was just one step short of advancing to the 2023 FIBA World Cup. Giovanni Buddy Hield, instrumental in getting the team over the hump, scoring 24 points in a 97-80 road win for the Bahamas over the U.S. Virgin Islands. Other team members playing instrumental roles as well. You can read all about them and the team in today's Guardian Sports section. Again, congratulations to the basketball team, the senior men's national basketball team, being chosen as the Nassau Guardians Team of the Year. More from basketball, this time from the NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo says he wants to produce with so much consistency that it causes boredom. That's the only respect in which the two-time MVP has fallen shortly lately. Antetokounmpo scoring a very not boring career-high 55 points with a series of thrilling dunks and drives Tuesday as his Milwaukee Bucks beat Washington 123-113, snapping the Wizards' 5-game winning streak. The spectacular forward also had 10 rebounds and 7 assists to continue arguably the best stretch of his career. Antetokounmpo saying, though, quote, "I want to get in a position that my game is boring. I just do what I do, and people don't talk about it because it becomes boring. I do it every single night. That's what I want to do." Well, Antetokounmpo has at least 40 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in each of the last 3 games he's played. The two-time MVP sat out a 118-95 loss to the Wizards on Sunday because of a sore left knee. The only other players in NBA history to have 3 straight performances of 40 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists are Elgin Baylor in 1961 and 63, Wilt Chamberlain in 1963, and Russell Westbrook in 2016. The only other Bucks to score at least 40 points in 3 straight appearances were Flynn Robinson back in February 1969 and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in February 1972. That's sports. And that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your first look at weather for today, we've got broad high pressure extending over the area. That's going to generate moderate winds and mostly dry and warm conditions across the islands today, while retreating eastwards through tonight. Beachgoers and swimmers should remain alert, as there's a risk of rip currents along East Coast and Atlantic beaches. For today, for all areas, your forecast calls for partly and mostly sunny, warm conditions today, with a chance of a few brief passing isolated showers. Mostly fair tonight, with a slight chance of a brief passing shower or two. For boat or small craft operators in the central and southeast Bahamas should exercise caution. Winds southeasterly at 10 to 15 knots in the northwest Bahamas and east to southeast at 15 to 20 knots in the central and southeastern islands. Seas 2 to 4 feet in the northwest Bahamas, but 4 to 6 feet in the central and southeast Bahamas. Currently in Nassau, we are already up to 74 degrees. It's partly cloudy skies. We're looking at highs getting all the way up to 84 Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook coming up after traffic in just a bit. It is time for break, but when we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
For you, for me, makes life easy. Notice bringing the heat. Notice, tap and go. Tap to that. Swipe this, swipe that, and go. Scan this, scan that, and go. Save money every day. Anytime for life on the go. Tap and go. Get your rewards for life on the go. Notice, tap and go. Tap to that.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-4796. Standard text rates apply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Joining me now, Chester Robards. Good morning, Chester Robards.
Good morning.
Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Hope 2023 is treating you right so far.
Well, yes. I mean,
what was? Well, you've never heard anyone ask that on the fourth day of the year?
Ken Block died yesterday. That was sad.
Before yesterday, I would not have known who you were talking about, but this is a golfer?
Wow, no. He's
race car driver.
A rally car driver.
Oh, yeah, something like that. One of those things.
Jeez.
I don't watch. That's sad. So you're depressed about this.
And Hawkeye is in the hospital. He was in serious condition.
Yes.
What a start. to the year.
Plenty of people having a very unbelievable start to the year. So you heard what happened with him?
Who? Ken Block?
No.
Hawkeye?
Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner.
Yeah. So you heard, because they were saying it was very vague before, but now he was on a snow plow and he tried to do something and he hopped out and it was rolling back and it rolled over him.
Oh.
It's like
he tried some Marvel stuff.
I guess. Where are the Avengers when you need them?
Right.
But anyway, hopefully he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And boy. Anyway, great to have you with us.
Glad to be here as usual.
Coming up this morning,
I hope the best for the new year for you and your family.
Right, and for everyone we know.
Absolutely.
And coming up, I didn't say this earlier, but we've got a special guest this morning. It's hard to believe it, but the now outgoing executive director of the Bahamas National Trust, Eric Carey.
Good man.
I think people thought as long as there'd be a BNT, there'd be Eric Carey, right?
Yeah.
But he's going to be our guest this morning. Looking forward to that discussion today.
Change, huh?
Yeah. Boy, I tell you, 2023. So we're looking forward to that this morning. But we got a lot more to talk about right now in the news. And in the news, a lot of interesting little stories to talk about this morning. The big headline in the NASA Guardian, not a surprise at all that he would plead not guilty. SBF in court yesterday in New York, pleading not guilty to the charges, the fraud charges. Not surprising. But this part was a little bit surprising here. His lawyer, Mark Cohen, making an appeal to the judge. SBF, as you know, is out on a $250 million bond. His parents co-signed the bond, and two additional sureties will also have to sign separate bonds in lesser amounts, and they've yet to do so. Now, before the arraignment, his lawyer sent a letter to the judge requesting that the names and other identifying information of the two remaining bail sureties be redacted on the bonds that they will sign and not be publicly disclosed by the U.S. government. He says he's requesting that because SBF's parents have been getting a lot of even death threats, hate mail, media scrutiny, harassment. He says the parents have received threatening correspondence, including communications expressing a desire that they suffer physical harm. Very interesting way to put that.
Yeah.
And he says there's serious concern that the two additional sureties would face similar intrusions on their privacy as well as threats and harassment if their names appear unredacted on their bonds or their identities are otherwise publicly disclosed. And the judge granted that request, so we won't know who they are.
I wonder if it's Mr. Wonderful.
Sure, it'd be quite interesting to know who they are. And so he's next in court on October 2nd. So there you go. Okay.
Man's got a whole year to chill.
Will there be any shenanigans between now and then? Or will the story be quiet for a little bit? Probably not going to be quiet?
I mean,
no new revelations?
If he misbehaves on Twitter, then
some new things might happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that will be revealed perhaps, but maybe we'll see. All right, so that's going on.
I mean, I'm in the face of his two cohorts pleading guilty. I'm surprised he didn't.
Yeah? I mean, no, he could act like how he was acting in those interviews. Like, I'm so young and innocent. I didn't know any better. I was just focusing on, right? And, that
maybe it makes sense.
Deer in the headlight look garnered some sympathy for him. I heard somebody say the other day, oh, he's just a young boy. I'm like, stop. Stop it. But anyway.
Well, they are surely going to be at his trial.
The two?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they will have a lot to say, I'm sure. All right, so that's happening. And then this was interesting yesterday. We learned that there are 18 COVID cases at PMH. In the big scheme of things, it's not a huge number compared to where we were a couple of years ago. Right? But where we were a few months ago, this is interesting, especially knowing what's happening in other parts of the world, especially China. So 18 cases, including, is that including? Well, there is at least one person in intensive care. So yes, there's an additional person. So there's 19 people. 18 in the hospital and one additional person in intensive care.
Is it interesting, though?
I mean, there were a couple of days when there was nobody. Now, that doesn't mean that nobody had COVID. It's just that nobody was testing or testing positive for it.
Right.
But people are expecting, if you talk to folks, that a new wave is coming.
That wouldn't be wholly unexpected?
No. But are people prepared?
How do they prepare?
I mean, have you adjusted your behavior? You're still going
some
out to
people
everything?
are still wearing masks, which is
very
good.
few.
So I see a lot.
Really?
Surprisingly.
Yeah, no, I don't see too many. Especially at events. Not a mask in sight.
Well, that's true.
More likely to wear a mask on their eyes than to wear one over their mouths and nose. But yeah, so that's going on. The other interesting thing that people want to know about, and that's in the Tribune today, is will the Bahamas join the list of countries that will put restrictions on people coming from China? And according to the Tribune, the health minister says they are monitoring the situation closely. But currently they have no plans to impose COVID testing requirements for travelers coming from China after a surge in cases there. But he said the situation could change as officials continue to closely monitor the situation. We talked about this yesterday. We told you that, we knew that last week, but we told you that China is responding harshly to the countries that have done this, like the U.S., U.K., and other European nations. I think Australia and New Zealand might have made some adjustments as well. Yeah. And they promised China to enforce some retaliatory measures. Not sure what they would be, but they thought it was and it sounds like the stuff everybody was saying in late 2020. They were questioning the science and, what would be the effectiveness of doing this.
Right.
Plenty of people were saying those things in 2020 and were made to look like villains. We probably made them look like villains, too.
Yeah.
I think I regret some of the things we said. I just wish I could go back and not ever talk about it. But anyway, so that's interesting. Keep your eyes on that, folks, and be careful, right? I mean, everybody wants to start living, or everybody's already started living again and doing all kinds of things, making up for lost time. But there's still some issues out there. A lot of people were sick over the holidays. Yeah. A lot of people were sick in December. Yeah. And people weren't sure and reluctant to test. Yeah. Right? They didn't know, was it cold? Was it the flu? Yeah. Was it RSV? Was it COVID? And people just, let me get some cold medications, which are getting harder to find as well, and extremely expensive. So, yeah, and with big events coming up, we've got another holiday, we've got Super Bowl, and people are letting their guard down, me included, but we have to all be very careful.
How do you live a balanced life with COVID still out there?
Soldier your way through. I don't know. All right, so this story is heartbreaking here. We heard about these, but I don't think anybody could have thought they would be related. You heard about the first two murder victims of the year, and then you heard about the tragic car accident involving a teenager. They're members of the same family, and now their family members are in complete shock. Take a listen to this report from our Jared Higgs.
Relatives of a man and woman who were shot and killed in their sleep are trying to put the pieces together after the shock. The woman who is also related to a 16-year-old who died in a car accident just hours later.
The woman who was shot and killed during a double murder in Montel Heights is 26-year-old Laura Taylor, a mother of a 4-year-old girl, according to her sister, DeAndrea Taylor. Taylor and 32-year-old Kevin Andrews were shot and killed while they slept in a Montel Heights home after intruders broke in at 3 a.m. on Monday morning.
You're like, girl, they shoot your sister, they shoot your sister. I was like, who's sister you talking about? She's like, yes, stop. And I just ended up jumping up. I'm finding the quickest things to put on and just run right around where they happen.
On Monday, police said they had 2 suspects in custody. Both of the men in custody are on bail for armed robbery and are being electronically monitored. One of the men reportedly had a previous altercation with Andrews.
Too much going on in one end, I just stand and people just doing a bunch of, sorry, but I don't, yeah, and it's just like, what going, what? Come on, and I sleep.
Taylor was described as a sweet and bubbly person with a welcoming personality. Her family is dealing with the double blow of losing her and also the death of her first cousin, 16-year-old Gino Hanna Jr. Hanna Jr. died on Tuesday morning after he was injured in a car crash near L.W. Young on Monday morning, just hours after his cousin was shot and killed.
We live in the same house. We live together, been together forever. That's when because we grew up together. I grew up with everything. I don't know how we get in like that. And happened from 9 o'clock yesterday morning, and we find out from after 3. That's just a bunch of crap right there.
Reporting for the Guardian News Network, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, so just a really sad situation there, and our condolences to the families there. It's rough, all in one day. Boy. And certainly a rough start to the new year. This crime report, did you see that? This is what's happening.
All over the country.
Right?
The whole country gone mad.
And indeed. And this is very, very, very disturbing. Let's go through this. Okay, so in addition to the traffic fatality, right? In Grand Bahama, the police are investigating a stabbing incident. That's left a 26-year-old man of 8 Mile Rock in the hospital. The incident happened around 12:45 on Monday, January 2nd. Police say that the victim was at a local nightclub on Longwood Road in Freeport when he reportedly got into an altercation with a man known to him and was stabbed multiple times. The Seagrape resident was taken to the hospital where he is detained in serious but stable condition. Police are following leads. Well, I mean, I'm sure people know who was responsible for that. I mean, what leads? Okay, anyway. Then in Bimini. So you're following, right? This is island hopping, the worst kind. From Grand Bahama to Bimini. Also on Monday, people bringing the new year with a bang. Bimini, they're questioning a 22-year-old man of Alistown in connection with the recent shooting incident.
That was a terrible pun, by the way.
What? How? Where? Which one?
Bringing the new year with a bang?
Yeah. I mean, it's intentional.
Okay.
I was trying to get a knife pun in there, but yeah. Anyway.
Take another stab at it.
This is not a laughing matter,
No,
Chester.
no, it's
Come
not.
on.
You
should be ashamed of
You
yourself.
can't resist a good
You should
pun.
be ashamed of yourself.
Okay.
Thank goodness none of these people have lost their lives. That'd be highly insensitive of you. But that was a good one. Okay. Preliminary reports reveal that shortly after 11 p.m. on Monday, a man, while at a local nightclub, another nightclub incident in Alistown, was shot in the face by a man known to him. The 26-year-old victim of Kings Highway was transported to the local clinic and later airlifted to New Providence, where he's detained in hospital in serious condition. Wow. Then also on Monday in Long Island, another stabbing incident. A 61-year-old man from Deadman's Key, currently in police custody after he reportedly stabbed a family member in the upper body. Reports indicate that shortly after 11:40 p.m. on Monday, officers attached to the Deadman's Key police station were contacted and informed of a domestic dispute between the brothers. The victim, who was 58 years old, was transported to the local clinic and later airlifted to New Providence, where he's detained in hospital in serious condition. The suspect remains in custody and is assisting police in their investigation.
All over the country.
Wow. And again, most of these people knew each other.
Knew each other, yeah.
So the domestic incidents in many cases. So and that's the type of thing we're seeing here. Most people who are victims of crime here know the perpetrators.
And people can't behave in nightclubs.
It's a common thread, right?
Yep.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Here we are. It's just the 4th day of the year.
Bimini has a lot of violence for a small place.
The entire Bahamas, for such a tiny country.
Yeah, but, when you localize it like that.
Yeah. It's wild. And this coming on heels that in 2022, almost 8%, we had an 8% jump in murders. Of course, if you're comparing that to the year before, that is definitely not surprising, as we were still in lockdown mode in 2021. But we know we have a problem. And here we are again at the start of a new year talking about this issue that has dominated our discussions over the past 10, almost 11 years on Guardian Radio. And we're not really making any headway at all. Nothing's really changed. I don't know if the perception, the attitude about it has changed. In fact, I believe people are more nonchalant about it than ever before. About crime and violent crime. And oh, well, I just got to protect myself, got to get strapped, got to get my knife, got to get my gun. Not you and me, of course, Chester, but clearly a whole lot of other people. So what are we going to do, folks? Another year of just talking about this?
There are also some crimes that go unreported.
Plenty.
That are scary.
Yes.
I hear them, from people
and you
who know the people.
Why? Why is that?
I'm talking about home invasions, rapes,
Do they
robberies.
not tell the police, or the police keeping that from us?
I don't know. But
yeah. So again, what are we going to do? 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. We know what happens. There's only outrage when there's a child involved. Right? That seems to be the only situation where people get really worked up. And then that lasts for 2 days until some political nonsense again.
Mm-hmm.
But is this just who we are? Is this just what we have to accept? Or can we reverse this? There have been many examples all around the world where they have been able to get a handle on their crime situation. Can we do it? What is the difference?
No.
And please don't bring up race. Don't bring up any race about those countries.
We're spending the money
looking different.
on expanding the prison, not improving the reason people get put in prison.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how do we do that, though?
Exactly.
And are we patient enough to wait? Because that may take
maybe
even a generation.
I'm not going to go another year on Guardian Radio talking about education.
So you're going to quit?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. What do you say about this?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hi.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to the Bahamas and to yourself. It's a very somber way to begin the year. And all I can say, as I always say, you got to keep on trying. But my condolences to the family, especially to the family of the 16-year-old. I say no more because I have a relationship as an educator with that student. So it's heartbreaking for fellow classmates and schoolmates.
Yeah. Yep, can imagine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Continue to call in 325-4316. 325-4316. And let's see what you're saying on the text line here. It's a long one here. Which one is this now? This is about COVID. Okay. So the texter says, restrictions on Chinese nationals are completely futile. It's too late. It's already jumped from China to the Americas and will make its way to us through tourist travel as usual. They act like they haven't learned anything from 2020. Yesterday, a statement said that while they have seen cases, they haven't seen any evidence of the new variant, when we all know it will take 4 months plus to get test results back. It is here. The third point, rather than sticking our heads in the sand, denying it for good tourism PR, they should be communicating to us what it means. How contagious is it? Is it deadly? Is there a pattern among the 28 infected? Which industries do they or their families work in, or any tourism related? I hear you. Want to go through that again? They should. They should. Should we be
tracing.
paying? Right. Should we be? Should
then-
we
and
be
then
paying
what?
that much attention to it? Or I mean,
You're gonna ask people to self quarantine.
what are we going to shut down again? You're going to like restrict? I mean, I don't know if we want to. I hear you. That will be good information, and people do with it as they wish or would or whatever, right? But yeah, I'm not going to disagree. But I don't want to live that life again.
They probably do it.
No.
Yeah, man.
And what do they do with it?
I don't know what they do with it, but they probably do it.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Just to keep track, keep a record.
Wishful thinking. I don't think so. I suspect it stopped. Like, you got COVID.
We have professional scientists in this country.
Y'all people like party too much and then end the story.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. I'm like, hey. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good day, this is Strachan, voice along with you in Chester, Dwight.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Dwight, somebody alleged that 10 people got killed, got shot at me, and 5 died. That's during the latter holiday, right?
I don't know.
And I haven't heard anything.
So then why we even repeat
Say it
that?
again?
So why even repeat that? I mean, where did you get that from?
Why?
Why even repeat that? Where did you get that from?
Well, somebody bring it up, was showing it to us on the telephone.
Yeah, what's the source?
So what's the source?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know, you know.
Okay.
I really don't know. But they were explaining it. They were showing it to a group of fellas, right? And I was one, but they were explaining it to me.
Yeah, they don't have any evidence to support that.
Say it again?
There's no evidence to support that.
Well,
okay, but let's
we
move
came
on.
to the conclusion that the police don't want the public to know. You understand me?
Okay. You have another point?
Yeah, my other point is, right? What I've noticed, right? Okay, and I'm speaking from experience. I call the police numerous of times, right, about the situation that are happening, right, through Spence Street off Mason's Edition. And most of the time when I call Central, they would tell me they doesn't have a car. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's foolishness, you know, because a situation as such causing crime to escalate.
That's very disturbing, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
That is a problem.
Absolutely.
And it does happen.
Indeed. All right, so, again, what are we going to do? Are we all talked out? You say you're tired of talking about it.
I don't know.
Anybody even care? We're wasting our time.
I don't know. Now, how do you collectively, in the shortest time possible, change the economic conditions of people in this country? Of the, the lowest of the low, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people whose children are probably causing a lot of the crime, who are seeking a lifestyle that includes, selling drugs, thievery, For some of them, it's too late, right? Because they've chosen this life of crime. But what about the next generation? How do we capture them? How do we change the systems that they're growing up in? How do we change the education system so that they know that there's a better future that's possible for them?
It's easier than you think.
Easy?
Yeah. Yeah. We like to throw these words around, but we are not serious about it. But I believe the answer is in what we like to say is the orange economy, right? Do we have to tell these folks that your future does not lie in the MP or the minister. It's your talents. You have it. You have it in you. Even though you are the class clown, even though you haven't been doing well in the traditional school system, you've got an incredible talent somewhere. You are incredibly creative, and this can sustain you and make you a wonderful, productive adult. We have to tap into the talents of our people, not to be seeking out jobs from here to there or whatever, but just to see that they are the answer to all the challenges they face. And we have not done that. We do not encourage our children to dream. We don't even, some people apparently don't even ask them what they want to be. When they grow up, they just tell them, you need to drop out of school and get a job.
Right. So how do we change that situation for, and let's face it, we're talking about a lot of our young men, right? How do we change that situation for them?
Yeah. Well, the country isn't dreaming. Stephen talked about this last week a bit too. We have to come together and try to determine what we want this place to be, what we really feel this can be over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, where we see this place going.
But the people who are raising the people that we're talking about, that we're expanding the prison for, the message is not getting to them.
No, because the message is not out there. It's a few people here and there saying it.
Some messages out there.
But is it getting to those folks that you're talking about?
And how do you reach those folks who are uneducated for the most part in some instances, undereducated in other instances?
When they do go to school, the teachers know, like, wow, this kid is terrible at English, can barely count 1 + 1.
Their parents I'm talking about.
Yeah. But the teachers need to identify, because their parents identify, well, they've got an incredible talent for art, drawing, music, something. We did this in class and they were like the best. We couldn't believe it. And isolate them and say, we have to, whether your parents support this or not, this is going to be amazing if you can really perfect this. Right. And then talk. I mean, it's going to be hard, but get to the parents like, this child has an unbelievable talent. We think they could be the next big whatever. And we need your support. We'll help you along the way. Yeah. I know you're going through some terrible economic times. You got all these children. You're being whatever. But this is something we just can't let this go to waste.
Yeah.
And we have to do this with everybody. And everybody has to get on board. It is very difficult, but, I mean, deep down to the bones, it is easy. We just don't think like this in this country at all. Your talents don't matter. Not at all. It's like, what? We need bodies to fill the jobs.
We also have a lot of people whose mentality is, oh, they're going to deal with it. And you know what happens? The person who they think is they, you know what they're saying? That person's saying they're going to deal with it. And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so eventually, who's dealing with it? Absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to do something.
Again, this system, with all these depressing headlines, this is working for people. This is working for a lot of people.
Yeah.
This is supporting some major industries, and they'd be very upset if what I'm talking about happens.
Yeah.
Because then they'd be out of business.
Yeah.
So there's going to be major resistance, but you can't fall into their trap. They want you to have legal problems. They want you to be struggling. They want you to flunk out of school and to say, no, I don't have time to do sports. I can't. Tennis has got to be a hobby. I can't focus on this. I can't make this be my life. I need the guitar is not going to feed me. They want you to talk like that. Art? What the heck is art, right? And you go and work that dead-end job with that ungrateful supervisor or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's what they love. So you get frustrated and slap the wrong person and need a lawyer and be tied up in court and have to pay tons of legal fees and bail and all this stuff. This is beautiful.
And suddenly it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, of course. And we're all falling into the trap.
Yeah.
Boy. One call before we take a break. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dwight.
Hi.
Yeah. Good morning to your host also.
Good morning.
Chester, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, Dwight. Yeah, I think we're in this dilemma again, beginning of the year, where it is the beginning of the year, all this mayhem. My thought was over this past whatever they had, holidays. Just not right. But you know what? The philosophy or the thought of everybody when the year comes in, everyone is saying the same thing. Everyone, it's just without even thinking, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. Me, consciously, when I think about it, Happy New Year, happy. Happy means to have fun. Happy means to get drunk. Happy means to go and prostitute.
No.
Happy means to just look for holiday. Happy means...
Well, maybe to you, but not to everybody.
No, but understand, when you say happy, the opposite of happy is sad. Opposites are identical in nature but different degrees. Okay? But if you focus on a happy, whenever sad comes along, well, what happens from there? Sad? That means you're going to go crazy. Okay? So, it's like, if you project something different, how about being focused? If you're focused to have an objective, I'm not talking about happy, because happy and sad will automatically happen, depends on what happens. Like they say, if something goes wrong, you get sad. If this happens, like they say, make you a lot of money, you get happy. But what happens when all the money goes? That's where we got to look at. The key to life is balance. We can't be happy. We got to be conscious. We must be focused. This year, seriously, Mr. Dwight, this year we have to look at this in a positive way and to basically put down the illusion. A good illusion is the cell phone. People have the cell phone directing them. Driving cars with the cell phones in their hands, putting makeup on them, whatever they want to do. And they don't care because the objective is the illusion. Reality is there, we're living it. Let's be focused in this reality we live. Because other than that, when whatever tragedy or whatever hits us, we're going to be, why, what? Because you're not focused.
Okay.
Anybody can lead you into any situation to be around anybody, people in general, we don't know who they are. We don't know what they've done. How about being by yourself sometimes? If you be by yourself, you have time to know who you are. And the majority of people, they're afraid to be by themselves. They feel as if being alone is lonely. Lonely and alone ain't the same thing. Why? Because the mere fact that internally in all of us, we have a mind, okay? We watch TV. We give up our reality. We don't even try to live within our head. Anything we see influences us. If you look around and look at especially the ladies, women are beautiful from birth. But they choose to look at a cell phone or a computer screen and see somebody else, and they want to be somebody else and leave their body empty as a cocoon, hollow, until, whenever they destroy themselves through all the illusions, then they come to reality when they're in a place where they can't help themselves. In a kind of way.
Wow. Okay. Interesting perspectives there.
Very.
Thank you. Well. Okay. All right. Some text messages as we go to the break. This person says, Dwight, do you think police report every incident? Clocking the death toll isn't helping crime. It's making it worse. Just saying. Okay. I don't see how it's making it worse, but you can't not report it. You should know. You should know how warped the place is compared to other places with the same population. How high it is per capita compared to, some huge countries. And that should give you reasons to be concerned. You don't want to bury your heads about that one. But anyway, this person says, not every child is going to be professional, but a trade is just as important. Sure.
Yeah? Yeah. Nobody's arguing against that.
Not at all. Some of those people have some amazing talents as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. Okay. And this person says here, we change the system by showing society that there are no exceptions to breaking the law and enforce it from the top. We stop cherry picking how powerful ministers are, i.e. Minister of Works can't handle roads and buildings, but a Minister of Education gets a pass pumping out thousands of kids a year. The citizens need to demand more and dismantle party politics to do so. Or just ignore it. How about that? Do we have to look into ourselves, look within to solve our problems? Let them do whatever nonsense they're doing over there, but don't wait for them. Don't look to them to solve anything. Let them do what they're supposed to do. Make better laws. We'll pick this up on the other side. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
It takes two to make it all go right. But with you, it's always my fault and your short views. Just like a time bomb, and I think you should take a second just to look at your reflection, baby. Maybe you're the problem. Okay, you see a pattern, your point of view. Got it all backwards. You should take your little finger and just point it in the mirror, baby. Maybe you're the problem. You should take a little finger and just point it in the mirror, baby. Maybe you're the problem. It's not me, it's you. It's not me, it's you. It's not me, it's you.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
It is time for your first look at traffic for the morning, brought to you by RBC. RBC's mortgage specialists can provide helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. In your real-time traffic this morning, the regular pattern re-emerging, folks, and we're seeing heavy traffic on Milo Butler Highway from well south of the Fire Trail roundabout all the way up to the Tawny Williams-Darling Highway roundabout. And traffic is backed up along Fire Trail as well, eastbound to the roundabout with the Fire Trail, Milo Butler Highway. Glasson Road also busy for you just north of Fire Trail. You see that heavy traffic all the way up to JFK Drive. Building traffic on Carmichael westbound to Coral Harbor Road and eastbound to Blue Hill Road. Blue Hill Road seeing some building traffic near that junction with Carmichael and especially north of Soldier Road all the way up to the roundabout with Independence Drive. Further south, you've got Cowpen Road. Seeing some heavy traffic eastbound to Faith Avenue. And then further east on the way to the junction with Zion Boulevard and Blue Hill Road. And then Zion on the way to East Street. And the intersection with Bamboo Boulevard looking busy for you there as well. We've got Soldier Road near Windsor Place and Robinson Road between Soldier and Old Trail, seeing some heavy traffic there. And then pockets along Prince Charles Drive at the major intersections like Beatrice Avenue and Fox Hill Road and near Elizabeth Estates. Fox Road also busy for you northbound to the intersection with Prince Charles. Bernard Road near the schools, westbound, you're going to be seeing heavy traffic there. And Soldier Road northbound, heading toward the intersection with Bernard, Wolf, and Village. Again, Village still under construction. Avoid the area if you can. That's what we're looking at this morning. That's your real-time traffic and your Morning Blend traffic alert brought to you by RBC. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds, 60 the number, to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist. And time for another check of your weather for this morning. Broad high pressure extending over the area will generate moderate winds and mostly dry and warm conditions across the islands while retreating eastwards through tonight. For all areas today, your forecast calls for partly to mostly sunny, warm conditions with a chance of a few brief isolated showers. Mostly fair tonight with a slight chance of a brief passing shower or two. Small craft operators in the central and southeast Bahamas should exercise caution. Temperatures getting up to around 84 Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. In your extended outlook, high pressure across the area will retreat eastwards ahead of a weakening cold front that's expected to work its way into the Bahamas late Thursday or early Friday. High pressure will build across the area behind the front into the weekend. So for Thursday, tomorrow, partly sunny and warm with a chance of a few isolated showers during the day, becoming partly cloudy across the northwest Bahamas with a few showers at night, and mainly fair across the remainder of the islands. Friday, variably cloudy with a few isolated showers across the northwest Bahamas and central islands, partly sunny and warm in the southeast Bahamas, becoming variably cloudy across all areas during the evening with a few isolated showers possible. That's your Morning Blend weather check. We'll be back with more Morning Blend after these messages here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
RBC believes your journey to home ownership is unique, whether it's your first home, equity on an existing home, or a new home. So your mortgage financing should also reflect your individual needs. That is why at RBC, we have dedicated mortgage specialists that provide sound advice and helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. Best of all, the RBC mortgage team is mobile, flexible, and will meet you almost anywhere. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with a mortgage specialist. Reimagine how you bank with RBC.
Florida Auto Parts can deliver all the auto parts your car will ever need, direct from the USA and from around the world. Florida Auto Parts provides fast delivery on auto parts, and we ship throughout the Bahamas, genuine or aftermarket, new or used, and all for the best price. Call Florida Auto Parts Trusted Parts Rep on WhatsApp at 1-786-772-8777 to save on your next auto parts purchase. Florida Auto Parts, the right parts at the right price.
Fidelity, we're good for you. With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches. Fidelity, we're good for you.
At Wendy's, we are different. We don't just use beef. It's fresh, never frozen. Our burgers are square because we never cut corners. Served hot off the grill with fresh lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and American cheese. We believe in fast food done right. Always serving fresh, never frozen beef. Order a hot, juicy Dave single, double, or triple. Made with fresh, never frozen beef. Now only at Wendy's. Different inside and out.
Power on the holidays this Christmas with Custom Computers. We have everything that everyone wants to see under the tree. Laptops, iPads, AirPods, Apple Watches, Bluetooth speakers, and more. Find gifts for every reason this Christmas season at Custom Computers. Visit us on Patton Street in Palmdale opposite Liquid Courage or in Caves Village through the Blake Road entrance. The best Christmas has to offer is right here at your one-stop shop. Custom Computers.
Ready to save? You can put $100 into the CFAL Savings Express Plan and make sure your money keeps growing. Earn interest on your savings while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL. Growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Open my eyes, you hate my friends. Turns out they were right.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Chester Robards. We're going to pick up that discussion about the solutions to our violent crime issues and social society issues a little bit later in the show. But for now, as promised, we've been looking forward to this for a while, our discussion with the former, oh boy, executive director of the Bahamas National Trust, the BNT. Cannot believe this, but Eric Carey's final day was December 31st.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, man. You look too young to be retired. I don't understand.
And let's make sure that word stays out of the vernacular. My wife likes to remind everybody I'm too broke and too poor to retire. So shifting gears, welcomed in our new executive director. Our first day formal on the job was yesterday.
Okay.
Lakeisha Anderson. She's going to do an amazing job.
We hope to meet her soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the team is working on a rollout plan for Lakeisha. But she is a known quantity in the marine in the conservation space, having served as our director of parks for a number of years. So I assume you'll be contacted soon with a rollout plan from Anna and Elijah, my former colleagues now. Sounds sort of surreal saying that.
Wow.
But yes, I my last day was December 31st.
My goodness. How long were you with the BNT?
So, it's interesting. So, formally, I went to the BNT in March 2003. That's the first time I started working there.
Oh, it feels like it was longer than that.
It does, yeah.
But no, March would be 20 years formally working there. But when I was with the Department of Agriculture before that, I worked with the BNT on wildlife committee matters, etc. And then I would have been around with people like Pericles Mailers, who was certainly the known entity back then. And so all of us were basically on Pericles' coattails. So I guess have been knocking around for closer to 25, 26, 27 years in the BNT system, but as an employee, 20 years and 15 years as the executive director.
Yeah, wow. So how has the BNT changed? And then we'll talk about environmental issues.
Day and night, in my opinion, and certainly from the reports, it's a real humbling experience when you leave and people start saying things about you. Most people have said good things. There's one person that was uncharitable, and that was expected, and actually, whatever. But generally, most people have remarked that the organization has moved from something that was really small, and I certainly will agree with this. When I got there were 10 people at the BNT, and in a wrap-up thing that I did that I circulated. My objective wasn't really to change the BNT when I went there, but it was to grow it. It was to make it more of a Bahamian entity. Back then when I started getting involved in the conservation field in the early 90s, the world was moving towards massive conservation. The rainforests were burning in Rio de Janeiro and in the Amazon in Brazil, and all this wonderful stuff. Well, this stuff was happening in the Bahamas, wasn't involved. Right. Myself and Dr. Maurice Isaacs, the late Dr. Maurice Isaacs, who got me into this at agriculture. I don't even know how Mo used to find out all this information by fax, by magazine, or by wire. But we started hearing all of this, and we knew that we need to get the Bahamas into this international discussion. So, I realized that everyone was talking about national parks and protected areas, and I was wondering why we don't have none. And then I started to realize that the BNT that the Bahamas National Trust existed. And back then the folks who were there was a small organization. They didn't have a lot of funding. I mean, they were working hard, because we met stuff in place, but they just didn't have the resources to do what they needed to do. So when I went in, I started asking about parks. I started wondering why more Bahamians weren't involved. And so the greatest change, I think, is that we've brought it from, 10-person organization. I think we probably have more than 90 people now.
Wow.
We're viable. I mean, people hear about the BNT, and that's what I said in my wrap-up. The thing that I'm most proud of is that the organization is now something that Bahamians identify with.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get riled for stuff, but at least people know about us. And a lot of times we get positive accolades for the work that we've done in advocacy and in education, etc. We've become a viable partner for the government, and I'm really proud of that because coming out of the public service, I was not a dissatisfied public servant. I actually enjoyed my job. So when I left, I had a lot of friends in government, like Michael Major in physical planning, friends in the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Works, people like Colin Higgs. So I used to go to them, to get support and favors. So I started bringing the BNT closer to government.
Right.
And then in 2000, I remember when it was, but Hubert Ingram and Brent Simmons and Earl DeVoe, they were in the Ingram administration. Teresa Butler was his senior policy advisor, and she was on our board. And they gave us $1 million. They moved us from $25,000 a year to $1 million a year. Suddenly we had money.
Game changer.
And so I started, there were people on the board like, oh, we should invest it. We should put it in the bank and, fix deposit. I'm like, no, we need to now invest in people.
Yeah.
And so we started hiring people, and the board was supportive of that, and we grew the organization to something viable.
Wonderful stuff. So when we come back, I want to ask you what those 90 people are doing. And the work of the BNT, but then we want to talk about you as well and your views on environmental issues in the country and where we're heading, especially seeing as we're about to have a 85-degree day in the beginning of January. What's going on in the place, right? We're going to get into all of that with Aaron Carey after the news. Stay with us. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
All the peace, all the skies, all the breeze, all the creeks, all the hills, all the sand, all the trees. So tell me why. Tell me why. He made these islands. Yes. Tell me if the same chance never liked a sunny day. Tell me why.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas, Channel 969, and BTC Flow, Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796. Standard text rates apply. And now at 8:22, time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. We've got broad high pressure extending over the area. It's going to generate gentle to moderate winds and mostly dry and warm conditions across the islands, while it's retreating eastwards through tonight. Beachgoers and swimmers should be alert. There's a risk of rip currents along East Coast beaches and along Atlantic shorelines. For all areas today, forecast calls for partly to mostly sunny and warm conditions, with a chance of a few brief isolated showers. Tonight should be mostly fair with a slight chance of brief passing showers. Small craft operators in the central and southeast Bahamas should exercise caution. Temperatures getting up to around 84 Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. In your extended outlook, high pressure across the area will retreat eastwards ahead of a weakening cold front that's expected to move into the Bahamas late Thursday or early Friday. High pressure will build across the area behind the front into the weekend. So for Thursday, tomorrow, partly sunny and warm with a chance of a few isolated showers during the day. Becoming partly cloudy across the northwest Bahamas with a few showers at night, mainly fair over the remainder of the islands. By Friday, variably cloudy with a few scattered showers across northwest and central Bahamas, partly sunny and warm across the southeast Bahamas, becoming variably cloudy across all areas during the evening with a few isolated showers possible. That's your morning blend weather check brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance, still the first and only local insurance company and agency network that lets you buy car and home insurance 100% online. Try it at bahamasfirst.com. .24 the time for another check of your traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. RBC's mortgage specialists can provide helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. And in your traffic, real-time traffic this morning, we've got a couple of nightmare scenarios. We've got heavy traffic on Milo Butler Highway. Traffic extending from well south of the Fire Trail roundabout all the way up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway, back to belong eastbound on Fire Trail this morning as well. Gladstone Road is going to be busy for you as well. Plus, there's work going on, expected to go on today on Gladstone Road. The work's expected to commence at 9:30 p.m. to 3:30 a.m., and that's going to continue for about 4 weeks. And that's going to extend from John F. Kennedy Drive to Carmichael Road, and if you can, avoid the area and follow all posted traffic signage. Again, that work expected to begin tonight. But back to real-time traffic. Gladstone Road is not a place to be if you don't have to be, and that heavy traffic all the way to JFK this morning. Seeing a bit of congestion on John F. Kennedy Drive heading to the roundabout with Tonic Williams Darling Highway and Prospect Ridge Road, and eastbound as you make your way to, further east as well. So keep that in mind. You're going to be seeing some traffic along JFK this morning. Saunders Beach on West Bay Street, we're seeing eastbound traffic heavy as you approach the roundabout with New Providence Highway. That's eastbound. And Blue Hill Road also busy for you from St. Vincent up to the roundabout with Independence Drive, especially near Carmichael. And then in eastern New Providence, we've got Prince Charles Drive at the major intersections, especially Prince Charles and Soldier, and extending on to Robinson Road, and then Bernard Road westbound and northbound on Soldier Road as you make your way to Village Road, and the work that continues there, and portions along Eastern Road as well. So we've got a number of hot spots for you this morning as we return to the heavy morning traffic pattern. But that is your morning blend weather check brought to you by RBC. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds and connect with an RBC mortgage specialist.
all the sun, all the keys, all the skies, all the breeze, all the creeks, all the hills, all the sand, all the trees. So tell me why. Tell me why.
And we're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Chester Robards. We are talking with Eric Carey, the now former, it's difficult saying this, executive director of the BNT, whose last day was December 31st after 20 years at the BNT. All right, so we're having a great conversation. Before the break, you say that they've gone from about, 10 people to 90 people at the BNT now?
Yeah.
What are all of you doing?
I mean, basically, when I went there were a couple of people working in education, and there were Park, one in Inagua and one in Exuma Keys. I mean, now we have fully functional departments. Education has a staff, a viable staff, and they have staff not only in Nassau, but we have education staff in Eleuthera, in Grand Bahama, in Andros. So we've grown. We have, parks have come on stream now, so you have a lot more parks that are operationalized with wardens and other staff in them, basically running the organization. We have a fully functional science and policy division, that does science and monitoring to support how well we're doing as far as managing the resources. We have a development in the communications department that does fundraising and communications, and of course we have a support system in finance. We have CFO and professional accountants and HR managers, etc. So we've built an organization that is functional and viable. The work of the BNT is absolutely important. I knew it was important. I envisioned, because I'm a big picture person, and I knew that what I saw coming down the pipeline in the 90s with the Agenda 21, which was the blueprint for the environment that came out of the Rio Conference, the United Nations Development Conference, and it defined what sustainable development was. Out of that came the Convention on Biodiversity and the framework on climate change. So that meeting was, definitive. I mean, I worked so hard to try to get to that meeting. I was with agriculture at the time. Me and Maurice Isaacs, my dear friend, departed. But of course, agriculture didn't have no swing, no sway, so we didn't get on the delegation. But we read everything that came out of it, and what came out of it was that the Bahamas had to prepare for being part of a global movement, but acting at the local level. Myself at the time, you had Eleanor Phillips, who just retired from the Nature Conservancy as well. She was a force for marine conservation. I worked in terrestrial conservation at the department. So we took that, she went to the Conservancy, I went to the BNT, and, I was building a national organization that I wanted to be a national organization to meet the needs of what was coming down the pipeline. And, I mean, we're still, as we started talking to donors, and I remember going to the IDB, and I forget her name, the lady who was the head, because I kept going to her for more money, for support, for getting us involved in government loan systems to be able to implement the environmental component. And she said, well, how much people do you really need? And I said, I don't know. So she funded a study, the IDB funded a study, which pretty much says that the National Trust, if we brought parks on stream like Bonefish Pond that everybody loves. When you go out to Bonefish Pond, we still have a porta potty out there. It's one of the most beautiful places on this island. So bringing that on stream, and I'm working with Minister Alfred Sayers. Well, I was working. Others are working on that. I had my last meeting with Minister Sayers on the, I think it's the 29th of December to talk about Bonefish Pond, and I'm sure Lakeisha and Jeff will take that forward. But every time you bring a park like Bonefish Pond on stream, you're creating 20 jobs, but you're adding, $750,000 to your payroll. Right. So you bring the Abaco National Park on stream, which is an amazing space in Abaco. that the Abaconians would love to have their Abaco National Park looking like and functioning like the Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve. So that adds, 750,000, well, 450 to 750, depending on how many people you employ.
Right.
So we determined through that study that the BNT could probably use 250 people.
Wow.
So, and it sounds like a big number. Yeah, wow, it's like what a lot of board members would say, but when you talk to the government about bringing on stream something like Bonefish Pond and the public amenity that provides for people to go out and enjoy nature at times when you're trying to get people out of communities, out of crime, and into nature and into things, doing things, you start adding people to the payroll. I mean, you look at a place like Clifton, which is an amazing place, and I know you do, and you do some stuff out there, Chester.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful space, but it requires 20, 30 people to run.
Right.
So there are opportunities. I'm really pleased with the support we got from the government because we couldn't do it without the government. And I've said to friends in this administration that there are credible opportunities to provide jobs for Bahamians by supporting the BNT through job creation programs, So, yeah.
So, you go, Jeff.
I just wanted to ask, how many, so when you came in, how many parks were there?
That's my question.
Okay. And how many do we have now?
So I know we doubled the size of the national park system. We haven't doubled the number, but we doubled the size in the time that I was there.
Right.
So we now have 2 million acres under active management, under protection, and again, and Akeisha's going to be introduced, I'm told, to the country next week, and you'll find that she comes with so much experience. I mean, she's ready, she's capable, she's an amazing leader. She leads the largest division within the organization, so she touches on most of the people in the organization anyway. So, I talk about for me what was important in leadership change. I mean, everyone. I'm sure you guys know Fred Papaul, who's absolutely a phenomenal Bahamian, about to become president of the USGA. And Fred said to me, Eric, you want a transition leader? Using the track and field relay analogy. He said, in the 4x4, when that person hands off that baton, that person who handed that off is dead. They drop to the track, often have to be taken off. They have nothing left to offer the successor. You want to use the 4x1 methodology, where the baton is passed when both runners are at their top speed. You pass that baton, you could run behind them, you could shout, you could see their success, you could pick it up if it drops, you could pick them up if they trip. It's the absolute top way. And that's what excellent. I think we've done with myself and Akeisha. Top speed, well, she runs faster than I do. But I'm pleased to have been able to adopt Fred's suggestion to transition into leadership.
That's wonderful.
I just want to ask too, how does our park system stack up to regional, global?
Absolutely. So we have the best national park system in the region. It's the most diverse. We have the most parks under active management. I think, because of the unique nature of the BNT as a statutory non-government organization, but created by government, the ability to have some degree of autonomy, but still have a close interaction with government, offers a unique opportunity to get a lot of stuff done without a lot of red tape, right? So we're able to move quickly as an organization if you want to bring something on stream once you find the funding. Because of the close relationship that I work really hard with the government, you can get things approved as far as bylaws, etc. Pretty quickly because they trust the entity, and that to me, that is what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a trusted entity for Bahamians, for donors, for the government. Everyone talks about the BNT, and in fact, the one thing that people like to go back to, and if we were doing a call-in show, I could preempt the person who's going to call in and talk about Bell Island.
on hold right now.
Right? Bell Island was again, it is a private island in a national park that we had to respect the government's decision to allow someone to develop their island, again, at a footprint of maybe 10%. All right, but it's a private island. Yes, would we have preferred that there was no dredging of the seabed? But precedent has been set throughout our country. If you have a private island, you basically are able to get your boat in safely, which is what they were allowed to do. If we were to do it, if that came up now in 2020, absolutely it wouldn't be allowed because there's so much more awareness and climate change is such an issue. But that, when I look back on the BNT, there's nothing I would have done any differently. I would have doubled down on some stuff, quite frankly, on some of the stuff that we would have done. We would have certainly fought things like Oban with more fervor. We would have worked harder, to protect species like conch and grouper and sharks. I mean, we would have done more. We wouldn't have done any less. And I certainly would have worked harder to build a relationship with the government. I mean, my objective, and I remember sitting with our FS, years ago when he was, before he left and came back. And, I talked to Simon and he said, it's probably easier for the government to employ people because government will create job opportunities, et cetera. And a lot of those people could be posted at the BNT. You train them, but the government has the responsibility for, maintaining them. And that's what we've done. In fact, some of the young people, like Elijah Sands that and some of the other staff we have at the BNT came to us through the government's, 52-week program. And we didn't just treat them as political hires. We basically brought them in and we gave each one a job description. We trained them, etc. And as a result, even when the program fell away, we were able to convince the decision makers that these are Bahamians. And even if the administration would have changed and they would have been hired under administration A, I go back to them and say, look, but this is a Bahamian who's working, who's a park warden, who's a security guard, who's a communications manager, etc. And so I think that we have an opportunity, because of the trust that we built for my successor, to even get more support, not only from the government, but also, the private sector.
You said a lot just now. I want to go back to some of those things, especially fish, conch, but I want to follow up on, and Carl will come to you in a second, but following up on the parks question, I mean, is it enough? Should there be more? Is that the plan? What percentage of the country should be protected?
Again, and this is why Lakeisha is going to be such a powerful and effective leader, because she has been the architect of designing systems that tells us that we should have 20% of our nearshore environment protected, and she's led initiatives. There are a number of areas that have been created. I mean, Ken Dorsett, former minister, approved maybe 40 areas in 2015 that have not yet been assigned to some to the BNT, some to forestry, some to DMR.
Right.
And then in 2021, the F&M administration approved probably 60. Right. So we have a lot of areas on paper that has been protected.
What's the holdup? What's keeping it?
I don't know. I mean, government red tape, some politics, some agency jealousy. I mean, that's the other thing that the BNT suffered, is that as we became effective, there were some people in government that felt that we were too big for our britches and we were doing too much, and government shouldn't give us any more land to manage. The usual stuff, right? And sorry, and then. But I think we have enough areas identified, and Lakeisha has an intimate knowledge of these areas, having been led a lot of these projects that resulted in these areas being identified and declared. So next step is for them, the government, the BNT and others, DMR and forestry, to sit down and basically determine which areas would be better managed by the Bahamas National Trust versus forestry. And I think we should have covered what would be a significant percentage.
Because there is confusion for some people. They don't know if it's or...
And this is also very important because it's confusing for fishermen. Because when these areas get declared, the fishermen call them parks.
Right.
And again, I'm sure there's at least one fisherman in the fisherman's trap. I get cussing every other day. I tell them, look, I'm working for you already, you like me or not. But there is confusion for them because it hasn't been properly explained that declaring an area doesn't stop them from still doing some type of fishing. What it allows for the government to then work with the the fishermen, the National Trust, the Department of Marine Resources, the Department of Forestry, to come up with management strategies for those areas. So you may not be able to catch grouper, but you may still be able to continue trapping lobster sustainably or getting conch at certain times, etc. So that's the next phase, I think, is in working closely with fishermen. And ironically, as I've told some of the fishermen, that's one of the things I want to do, is to help build them into a viable fisheries associations. And there are two. There's Adrian has one, the commercial fishers, and Paul Maylers and Keith Carroll and others have worked on the National Fisheries Association. And that's something I want to really see, because they need to be viable entities to provide the interface. So when the environmentalist or the government is saying these areas are going to be declared, the fishermen need to be in the room, and they need to be saying, okay, we agree to X, Y, Z, we agree to W, but we won't agree to this one. And then you go through a negotiation process. So I think we have sufficient areas that have been declared for now. Those areas have to be fully developed. The funding needs to be identified. I mean, we have basically, the trust's current budget is probably about $10 million with projects, et cetera. The trust by itself could probably be a $60, $70, $85 million a year organization. The Department of Marine Resources needs like 100 staff tomorrow to be able to do their job, including not only conservation, but, fisheries management, et cetera. Forestry needs, 50 people basically. So there is a great need for more funding, but I think that the mechanisms are in place between the Bahamas National Trust and the government agencies and other NGOs that provide support, like Brief, Friends of the Environment, ANCAT, and others, and ANDRAS. The formula is there in the Bahamas. So we've built an impressive national park system of protected areas. We've gotten a lot of them declared. And the thing is, the Prime Minister, people ask me what I think about the Prime Minister's environmental agenda. I love it. I think our Prime Minister has been amazing as far as talking about climate change and putting in place mechanisms. And what we're hoping that, and certainly in my next life, is I could be a liaison for whoever to try and get some of that global talking and impressive global leadership translated to the local level. And I think one of the best ways you could do it is by actually bringing a lot of these protected areas on stream, because those are the units of resiliency, the national parks and protected areas. Those are the areas that you can manage to determine, whether natural resources are being impacted by climate change and what strategies you can put in place to try and mitigate it. So there's some exciting stuff ahead, and my role in it, only God knows.
We're going to talk more about that in a second. Let's take this call really quickly, and Chester, we can come back to you. Caller, I hope you're still there. Good morning. You're on the air.
A pleasant good morning, Dwight. How you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Sparky here. Good morning, Eric.
Morning.
Hello, Sparky, Eric.
Hey, Sparky, what's up, bro?
Right here, man. Long time no see.
Yeah, I gotta come see you. We could row now, right on your porch all the time. Have a drink.
Man, this is a good time to come to, boy. That big apple juju's falling.
All right, I come in to see you this week.
So you know how big them juju is.
I come in to see you.
But other thing, I know you don't have enough time to say all the stuff I know you got to say especially on these talk shows. You got limited time. You and I have been working or trying to work with things, but I'm down in Pride State. I call my lake now Lake Sparky. I changed it from Howard Bond.
There you go.
It belonged to me. But, I know, and I know when we first started down here was filled with birds, egrets, you name the type of birds. They were swarming all over the place. And now you hardly see a bird. I don't know what caused that. I guess maybe the inhabitants being put in the area where they had protection before, the area around the pond is growing up. The youngsters, Dwight, they hide in these bushes at night, and they vandalize the neighbors, the vehicles and stuff.
Oh gosh!
Breaking in cars and stealing tools of the guys that are, carpentry equipment and mechanical equipment. And then they built the boardwalk out there, Eric, which is a beautiful thing. And now that has fallen down into the pond, and I know.
Sparky, let me get a little answer in, because I know, it's Sparky, and I know you go right. Let me just address one or two things. One, the issues with the birds, we're aware that the general population of the area has fallen for a number of reasons, and it doesn't have to do so much with your area, but Wilson's Pond and further down the road. Wilson's Pond has become totally taken over by cattails, and that's where most of the birds used to be. So again, we're working with the BNT has a plan, and they have put together a proposal. Bahama is very interested in working with the organization.
What's the issue with the cattails?
The cattails, they just grow and suck up all the water. So they naturally occur in the Bahamas, but when there's hypernutrient situations, there used to be a chicken farm, and so all the chicken doo-doo got into the water and became fertilizer, and the plants just grew, and so the plants just choked, and so those thousands of birds that used to be there feeding and in the habitat would also fly east to where Sparky is. So Sparky, there's a plan to get those cattails under control. The boardwalk, you're right. The boardwalk was an amazing amenity for the community. As you may know, the member of parliament, who's also the minister of sports, we have been in touch with him. He has visited the site. He has made a commitment to work to help us get support from the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Works. We know that someone has actually come out and started doing estimates. The BNT will rebuild that boardwalk because it was important. I used to love to come into that.
How do we allow that to get to that point where it collapsed?
So that one had a technical issue of the pilings. We were recommended pilings by an entity that said these pilings are sustainable. They don't have the treated copper or whatever that goes into the cut lamp poles. We weren't using them. But it ended up that we just got really bad advice, and they deteriorated quickly. So the boardwalk lost its structure. So that's what happened there. That could be easily rebuilt. It's just a matter of time and money and a commitment. The member of parliament, we met with him, Minister Boleg. He understands the importance of it. So Sparky, I know you have a lot of influence too, so I'll come see you, and then we could probably come up with a plan for a lot of these issues that you have on the table.
Okay.
Yeah, hello, Dwight.
Yeah, one more, Sparky.
Dwight, right before you go, I know it's time consuming. Because Eric and I also, I had an idea right across the road from my home where Eric to bring like tourists over here, like a tour, where they could bring tourists, the people like to watch birds and take pictures of birds and stuff. And Eric could tell you, I was planning an area where we could cut a little road, cross the road from my house. I would train the ducks, I'll grow the ducks in my yard. And in the morning when I wake up, I'll open the gate, they'll be fed at home. Then they go out into the pond to spend the day and swim around. And then they come back. And what I was planning was to do the growing of the birds in my yard. We talk about land ducks and stuff like that. And then the tour drivers got to come over and try to stay around Harbor Pond and bring tourists, for different things that they do other than just going on the beach and buying a T-shirt on Bay Street. We could take them out on the tours to these bonefish pond and stuff like that. Bring them over in these areas. And that's what me and Eric was trying but it's hard to do. But Eric, the area is growing up high now. These young vandals, they use these areas to hide in at night, and it's causing problems. We reported this, me and Mr. Links behind me, many times. His trucks and stuff have been broken into. Nick around the corner by the park, his trucks and stuff have been broken into. All kind of thousands of dollars of stuff have been stolen.
Wow.
We need to get it under control.
Hopefully get the police involved as well.
All right.
Okay, we got to take a break. Chester, you have a question? I have many questions. I'm hoping Eric can stick around a little bit past the time we'd agreed to. Yeah, okay, great. So we have a lot more with Eric Carey. Stay with us. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
All the sun, all the peace, all the skies, all the breeze, all the creeks, all the hills, all the sand.
RBC believes your journey to home ownership is unique, whether it's your first home, equity on an existing home, or a new home. So your mortgage financing should also reflect your individual needs. That is why at RBC, we have dedicated mortgage specialists that provide sound advice and helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. Best of all, the RBC mortgage team is mobile, flexible, and will meet you almost anywhere. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with a mortgage specialist. Reimagine how you bank with RBC.
Florida Auto Parts can deliver all the auto parts your car will ever need, direct from the USA and from around the world. Florida Auto Parts provides fast delivery on auto parts, and we ship throughout the Bahamas, genuine or aftermarket, new or used, and all for the best price. Call Florida Auto Parts Trusted Parts Rep on WhatsApp at 1-786-772-8777 to save on your next auto parts purchase. Florida Auto Parts, the right parts at the right price.
Power on the holidays this Christmas with Custom Computers. We have everything that everyone wants to see under the tree. Laptops, iPads, AirPods, Apple Watches, Bluetooth speakers, and more. Find gifts for every reason this Christmas season at Custom Computers. Visit us on Patton Street in Palmdale, opposite Liquid Courage, or in Caves Village through the Blake Road entrance. The best Christmas has to offer is right here at your one-stop shop, Custom Computers.
Oh, wow! What's that under the Christmas tree? Up to $1,000 cash back for you and me? 10 lucky customers get a chance to win up to $1,000 cash back this Christmas just for spending $60 and over with their Scotiabank credit card in-store or online. That's up to $1,000 cash back to spend on gifts, gas, groceries, and more this Christmas. Visit bs.scotiabank.com for more information. Promotion ends January 28, 2023. Conditions apply.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Oh, yeah. All right. My beautiful islands. I tell you, if the good Lord never goes on holiday, tell me why he made the Bahamas. If the good Lord never used to come this way, tell me why he made these islands.
We're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Chester Robards. We are having a great conversation with Eric Carey, the now former executive director of the Bahamas National Trust. We're going to ask him in a few minutes about what's next. We got a whole lot of questions for Eric, and questions coming in and calls coming in as well. You can text us 422-4796 and call in 325-4316. Chester has a question, but before we get to this one, before we get to Chester, this is a very interesting question. I thought it was strange at first, but this should be interesting. We just had Junkanoo. Can you ask Eric his opinion on how to make Junkanoo more sustainable? I watched for the first time in a long time, and I love the spectacle, but my heart breaks because the costumes later become trash. Do you have any views on that? Any theories on something that can be done?
We actually had this discussion this weekend in my backyard with my wife and some other people about how much wastage there is and whether there are opportunities to use more sustainable recycled stuff. So I think what we need to do is see if there are opportunities to use more upcycling of material. So I can throw that on my good friend, Mr. Junkanoo, Chairman Magnus, from One Family, Darren. I know One Family fan, but Darren, I'm a Valley, but Darren, I think, has a lot of creative opportunities. So I'm going to make a note of that.
Okay.
I can call Darren after this meeting and let him start a discussion. I think certainly people like him who are visionary, I think, and Arlene Nash, I think that those are... It's a very interesting question. And we should find a way, not only but also People who bring in, people say they're tired of seeing birds and fish, but we haven't brought enough Bahamian birds and fish to Bay Street. So
Really?
what I would like to see is the next time my group, the Valley, bring birds or fish to Bay Street, that indeed someone could look at that and go, wow, what an amazingly done white crown pigeon or flamingo that don't look like the upbird, but actually looks like a flamingo, or an underwater scene that actually looks like a Bahamian coral reef. So we aren't done with those themes, but there are opportunities to do them better, and so that people could get, so they could actually feel when that group heads up Bay Street, someone could actually feel that they're sitting on a
Sounds like the
reef.
tourism industry. We've got a lot of potential that we haven't tapped into with that, right?
Do groups consult BMT for some things with like that kind of thing? Like, what does this thing look like?
Right, some we have had in the past. I know we've worked with Brian, the leader of the Valley. We've also worked with One Family people. So a lot of individuals reach out to us asking, like, I want to do this with my costume, etc. I think there should be more consultation because Junkanoo is obviously the most powerful cultural force that we have, and it's a good opportunity for education. So yes, I would. I'm hoping that more of that could happen with some of the groups and themes, etc.
I don't want to stray too far, but somebody's saying how the birds should be their mascot, but I'm thinking that should go on T-shirts and all kinds of things, right? That could sell.
Absolutely.
That could sell millions.
But I wanted to ask, since you've been at the BNT, the national parks. Have you seen, in terms of conservation, have you seen when you put these sea parks in place, have you seen the growth of marine life? Have you seen poachers stay away, more?
Right.
Because you have wardens there as well, right?
So there are several things that have been effective. So we look at the Exuma Keys Land and Sea Park, where we've had enforcement for many years. Absolutely. And the science proves that because of the work that we've done in Exuma Park, you have more fish outside the park. Fish, they're not boundary restricted, so they don't know when they leave the park, and so the fisherman knows that here's a nice grouper that probably grew up in the park. It's legal. You're outside, etc. Fish. So groupers have been tagged as far away as, and Kazarino could probably give you the data on as far away as Long Island. Lobsters have been tagged in the park, have been found, on other islands within the Bahamas. So yes, that's effective. The flamingos. The flamingos were on the brink of extinction. So if the National Trust had not been created, working with National Audubon and hired the two best wardens, Sammy and Jimmy Nixon, and now we have, third generation Nixons working for us, that saved the flamingo from extinction. That's one of the best and most well-known conservation stories. In Abaco, where we're protecting the Abaco parrot, Marcus and our other warden there, Arthur and David, they're focused on predator control. So they actually have to trap cats. Cindy Pinder, who is with Big Bird Farms, Abaco Big Bird, Cindy's spreading a lot of knowledge about the threat of raccoons, which are marching south, and they're going to decimate farms if we don't get them under control. But if they get into the Abaco National Park, now the Bahamas National Trust predator control budget escalates, because now you have to have more people, more active tracking, because cats are destructive. Raccoons are very intelligent. And I know there are people that love raccoons, like my friend Melissa, but they're in the wrong place in the Abaco National Park, and they have to be managed and controlled. So yes, there are examples of where we've done effective management and where we haven't done it. Again, if we talk about Harlem Woodson's Pond, that's one of my regrets, that I wasn't able to get that restored, because the incredible bird life. It's the one of the few inland ponds where you could have brackish or sometimes fresh water, depending on how much rain there is. That used to be loaded with birds in Harlem Wilson's Pond. So I'm hoping that could be restored, and if I pledge to the BNT that if there's anything that I could do to help, certainly to move issues like that along, I'm certainly interested in things like that. So
All right, let's take this call real quickly before we have to break for news. Hopefully you're still there, caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Dwight. Good morning, Chester. Good morning, Eric. Happy New Year to all of you.
How you doing, man?
Doing great. Just two very interesting questions based upon the conversation that has already been had. Eric, in terms of development in our family islands, in terms of dredging and so on and so forth. To the best of your knowledge, has there been any what we call redevelopment of those areas after the areas have been dredged, such as with the natural sea life, probably some new corals put down, some new areas where fish and other things can breed in? Has anyone taken on that part of the responsibility to more or less reintroduce life into those areas? Because once you disturb the habitat, sometimes it causes our marine life to disappear out of those areas. My second point would be in terms of the sharks. There have been reports that there has been a shark explosion. What is the BNT's position on controlling the explosion that is allegedly have happened, and is there any plan to allow persons to capture sharks and do other stuff with them?
All right, we're going to take the break for news, and Eric will answer all those questions and more, because I want to talk about fish and conch, other types of fish and conch as well, and about education and whether it's working, the work that you all are doing, because have we changed in the 20 past years? Have you seen a change with the Bahamian people in general when it comes to the environment and conservation? So a whole lot more with Eric Carey when we get back after the news. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Oh, yeah. All right. My beautiful islands. I tell you, if the good Lord never goes on holiday, tell me why he made the Bahamas. If the good Lord never used to come this way, tell me why he made these islands. All the sun, all the peace, all the skies, all the breeze, all the creeks, all the hills, all the sand, all the trees. Oh, tell me why. Tell me why.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Chester Robards, and we've been talking with Eric Carey, the former executive director of the Bahamas National Trust, the BNT, and he's graciously agreed to stick around with us as we continue the discussion with him. And before the break, we got some good questions there. Do you remember them both? The first one about dredging.
Yeah. I mean, look, so basically when you dredge an area, obviously there's an impact at the time, and there's a lot of destruction and disturbance. But the reality is that over time, those areas could become viable and productive again. So it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. Like if you talk to people, as much, as destructive as all of the dredging would have been to the water table in places like, Grand Bahama, there are people who go fishing in the canals. There are people who, tell me they find conchs in the canals, et cetera. So it's not ideal, but yes, so there is some restoration and regeneration that takes place. I mean, what we could hopefully do is that when there's dredging, like if a marina gets created, what we need to do have better standards where you don't take out all of the mangroves, so you leave a part of the marina natural If it gets approved, God forbid, but you leave a part of it natural, you could still then have a nursery function.
Right.
And once things settle down, fish will swim in and out of the channel. There's this fallacy with respect to sharks. So, look, when we protected sharks in 2011, there was no fishing pressure. So we weren't fishing sharks. We weren't killing thousands of sharks. The only thing that happened is we averted a very serious threat. There was a threat. The Asian market was looking at our sharks. They wanted Bahamians to start fishing sharks. That would have wiped out our sharks. It would have been a lot of pressure. So there's been the same pressure on the populations. What has happened is that there's more awareness about sharks now, and more importantly, there are fewer fish. So fishermen are in the same place where sharks are because there are fewer fish. There's fewer fish biomass. There are people cleaning fish in a lot more places in marinas, so people are seeing bull sharks in Nassau Harbor. So I respect the view that people have, that they say they see more sharks. There's more shark feeding. We know that the incident that happened out at the unfortunate incident that happened with that resulted in the death of the young American, I think Jordan was her name, may she rest in peace. We've been reliably informed that there was chumming. There was chumming taking place in an area. So we know that shark feeding changes behavior, but if you do it, sensibly and where a lot of people aren't swimming, the interactions could be minimized. If you're doing it at places like Rose Island, where temporarily chumming, then you have the opportunity for potential encounters. But there's no data that suggests that there's any reason why shark populations would have increased or exploded. In fact, globally, sharks are still declining at an amazingly alarming rate. So I don't think we have an explosion. We don't think the population... In fact, the science shows that there is no increase in shark populations are still decreasing.
Right.
But I think the encounters are more because there's more awareness about sharks. And more importantly, humans and sharks are competing more for the same fish at the same location. So there are more encounters. And fishermen do talk about seeing more sharks around their boat, around their traps, around their dive sites. Because again, we need more effective conservation.
Only get concerned when they start bothering people on land, right?
Yeah.
but just speaking of remediation, because you mentioned it there, what work has the BNT had to do or done, or does it even come under the BNT's purview in terms? Because I know you did a video, I think, one time about the Pirates of the Caribbean area in Grand Bahama that Disney did, but they never fixed.
Well, a company did.
It
was a Disney movie,
right?
But it was another contract they found that I found out. But yes, so things like that shouldn't happen in our country. That mess is still there. It's still destroying an important beach part of Gold Rock Creek. Fortunately, it wasn't like further downstream or the entire incredible beach at the Lucayan National Park would have been destroyed. So things like that shouldn't happen. So we do have disasters that should be remediated, and they should be people who should be made to pay for it. And yes, the movies that resulted, the multi-million-dollar blockbuster movies, perhaps some of those funds should have been used to mitigate that area by whatever means necessary. There are areas in New Providence that are still being destroyed. Out at Bonefish Pond, I've had to do a couple of live videos there of, the failed development, South Seas, I'll call the name South Seas Development. It's a failed development. We've seen them dredging. They keep destroying the creek. Wolf Albury, who is one of the top kayakers in the Americas and certainly in the Bahamas, Wolf and Emmanuel, I forget his name, down at Miller's Creek have been trying to run a business and educate people, etc., and their excavators going illegally. So I've been told yesterday by the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection that they have come to an arrangement with that developer. They will be allowed to remove a plug that's there, and then that's the end of that. So that things like that need to happen, where there need to be active decisions made to remediate, to restore, because some of the areas could return to a degree of functionality and viability. Because there are areas where people do go fish in canals and they do have experiences. So yes, while it's not the ideal to have sites that are altered, it's not the end of the world if you could indeed put together remediation. But the point is, the BNT serves more, in my time there, and certainly by law, we serve as an advisor to government. So our core responsibility is national park management, which includes conservation, education, science, and monitoring. But a lot of the other issues, like generally remediation and dealing with other major environmental issues, fall within our purview as an advisor to government. So
how often do they take your advice?
It depends on the day. I must say that, it depends on the day and the issue. The government, and this is, it was interesting, and I was listening to the DPM when he spoke at the event that they had for me at Bahama, and he remarked that he's always seen me as a voice of balance, right? And that's what I've tried to be. Our country needs to develop. We need to create jobs. Like a lot of my hardcore environmentalist friends who want every single development stopped. I'm from a community that has nothing, that is pretty much dried up. And there are communities that they tell you that all of our families, have had, my kids have had to leave the island because there's no development. So there needs to be some level of development. It doesn't need to be as crazy as large-scale development that we've seen. But yes, there's going to be some impact. And as DPM Chester would have said, you balance that with more protection of the environment, more funding for organizations like the Department of Marine Resources, Forestry, the Bahamas National Trust, etc. So it's got to be a balance. We live on a planet. I mean, we're destroying it at a rate faster than anyone could have imagined in certain places. But generally in the Bahamas, we still have a lot of intact systems, and we still have an opportunity to demonstrate balance. And it's so much more important now with all the discussion about climate change. The Bahamas must demonstrate that we are allowing our country to develop and people to make a living off of the environment, but we are at the same time protecting the very resources that underpins and undergirds environmental sustainability. Both are possible.
One area where there doesn't seem to be any balance is with the ridges here in New Providence, and that continues, the cutting down of these hills here. We keep hearing that if there should be an incident, get to the ridges, but where are they? What's happening? Because I still see, I see it now on Burnett Road, the cutting down the ridge there.
Enforcement. So there is something, though, called BAWEN, Bahamas Wildlife Enforcement Network, looking at enforcing wildlife legislation. I ain't gonna get into all discussions about pine forests and who occupying and whoever, but that force has been looking at illegal destruction of pine forests, illegal cutting of hills, etc. But the issue is enforcement, right? I mean, Romy left some really progressive legislation, right? And I mean, the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection is a result of the Environmental Planning and Protection Act, which is a broad-scale, sweeping piece of legislation with incredible penalties. For the first time now, we can deal with pollution. We can deal with that wreck still out sitting on the reef off of Saunders Beach, and I hope they are going to find those people, because the legislation allows for it now. But it's enforcement. And this is the thing, just like organizations like the BNT needs more people to enforce our regulations. DEP, which, has, poor Dr. Neely, who is, Dr. Neely is a very accomplished, brilliant, qualified, well-educated Bahamian, but she needs 100 people, because what's happening on this island is happening tenfold on other islands throughout the archipelago. Wow. So DEP needs to be replicated. It needs to have the ability to travel. It needs intelligence. It needs partnerships, of course. But yes, the issue isn't more legislation. The issue is the enforcement of legislation. Whether you're talking about cutting hills or the disgusting nastiness of people dumping litter all over our country, it is enforcement first. Enforcement and education go hand in hand, but you really need to do enforcement if people are going to take the law seriously.
Yeah. Wow. All right, so that gets back to what you said earlier. I want to get back to sharks in a little bit, but we talked about the work of the BNT in education. Have things really changed? Would you say there's been improvement that folks get it, or is it just still a tiny portion of the population?
I think people get it. And again, when I became executive director, there was one Discovery Club. So Discovery Club is our signature environmental education program, which was school based, but it's also community based. It's Portia, our director of education, is working on. I keep saying our because there's only been a couple of days, but Lakeisha's director of education, they've worked really hard on getting broad scale environmental education throughout the country. I think that has started to show results in our country. While enforcement is absolutely important, what is much more important is what I call voluntary compliance. People have to know, understand, respect the law. Have love for their country, love for the environment, and want to do what is right, not what is wrong. But they can only do that if you've created environmental stewardship in them, which is why I'm really proud of the environmental education programs that were developed under my tenure at the Bahamas National Trust. But organizations like BRIEF, Friends of the Environment, have also had very effective environmental education programs. So I think the level of awareness is higher, not only amongst the general populace. I'm also impressed by the number of decision makers that have reached out to me, whether it's before or right after elections, to ask for advice, and they're using it based on awareness that they have about the environment. So I think there is increased awareness. There's always an opportunity and a need for more education, but I would say that certainly one of the things I have noted in the time is that there's more awareness about education. And I use myself as a yardstick. When I travel, as I've had to, whether it's locally or internationally, I run into a lot of people in airports, whether it's fellow travelers or airport staff, and a lot of them have points about the environment and things that they've seen. And so I know within my mind, myself, that there is increased awareness, but there's always an opportunity for more.
Yeah. Well,
the work isn't done yet.
Okay. All right. So back to the sharks. You've heard it before. I think you've been on before. While people will accuse the BNT and other environmentalists of caring more about the sharks and the turtles than they do about humans and the livelihood of humans. That's a constant cry here. What do you make of all of that? And is that attitude changing as well, or is it getting worse?
Well, it depends on the stakeholder. There are people that believe that we environmentalists are tree huggers, right? And I don't know. For them, my solution to deal with them, I just ignore them, quite frankly, right? Because I can't change their mind. Stupidity is something that, if it's in you, I can't pull it out of you with education, right? That ignorance I could address, stupidity I can't. And I apologize to your listeners, but I think that with respect to whether it's sharks or groupers or whatever, we that work in this field are driven by wanting to make life better for people on our planet. And so when we talk about conservation for grouper, lobster, whatever, it is, and even sharks are an important part of the ecosystem. And if you wipe out sharks, you're going to have the diseased fish that are going to take over. The ecosystem becomes unhealthy. So it's all about balance. But everything that we do is driven by our, one, we want to live on a planet and coexist with nature, but a lot of it is driven towards being able to support the economies of human beings, create jobs, whether it's in fisheries, tourism, nature tourism, etc. Every time that we've talked about a conservation measure, we've always talked about the impact and thought about the impact on people and their lives. So it's a fallacy. It's incorrect. The view that people have that we care more about sharks than people. No, I mean even people, the people who care about animals and dogs, they're accused of the same thing. Yeah. But yes, sometimes you have to take the position of supporting the disadvantaged, and just like animal lovers have trying to help animals who are being abused. Yes, on our front, sometimes, we are looking after the environment, which is often being abused, not given the love that it needs. But in the final analysis, it is all about making life better for us on this planet. We coexist with all of these things. You can't wipe out sharks and groupers and lobsters and not realize, and forests, and not realize that you're going to have a serious and significant impact on your well-being. So when we talk about protecting pine forest, it's to protect the pine forest to produce oxygen. Anyone in there breathe air, or if we're protecting the water table, anybody like to drink water? Absolutely. It is all about conservation. Is driven about sustainability of natural resources, sustaining sustenance, keeping ourselves alive. So it is not unrelated. It is absolutely and directly 100% linked and intertwined, our work with the well-being of human
Definitely.
welfare.
Again, it's going to be 85 degrees on the
Absolutely,
4th day
yeah.
of January here. Unbelievable stuff there. One thing, somebody's asking, we assume everybody knows these things, but they're asking, you mentioned chumming earlier, they're asking what's chumming. And maybe a lot of people don't even know that's what causes the problems.
Yeah, so when you basically cut up pieces of fish and throw it in the water to attract sharks, as opposed to letting them go and find their own food, you're making them lazy. And again, some people use that as part of a tourism product. I don't have a particular view, yay or nay, on shark feeding. I don't have a strong view on it. But certainly within the BNT's policy from the time that I was there is that we did not allow shark feeding in any national park. So that is something that I suspect, based on Lakeisha's knowledge of the marine environment. She is a marine biologist. I don't think she'll change that view.
Speaking of your personal opinion, I know the BNT was big on conservation while you were there and had a program running.
Yeah.
Do we need a season? Is that something that you ever thought was necessary?
I don't think we need a season yet. If the government really goes forward with the size limitations, landing in the shell, cutting the exports. We're also working with Dr. Megan Davis on conch hatcheries. So the concept of not like conch farms, because those are they don't really work commercially. But what they do is they have these little hatcheries, and they pay fishermen to bring in a small pod. They just take a small pod of the conch egg mass, bring it into a laboratory situation, grow them out, and you release the conch at a level above their most vulnerable stage, and you can release them into national parks or close to communities, etc. So I don't think we need a conch season yet. And I hope that the measures that are on the books. I mean, Minister Clay Sweeting, who I'd also like to shout out, has really been very progressive with pushing the fisheries legislation that he met in place, but getting regulations under that. I mean, there's some aspects of it I don't agree with, like putting turtles back on the menu. So me and him gonna fight about that. But generally, I think the minister is. He as a former commercial fisherman, he obviously understands the plight and the need to be on the side of fishermen. But Minister Clay Seeding is a very astute individual, and I think he understands the need for balance as well. So I think there's some positives certainly on the table that we should all be encouraged about.
Any improvements with conch? I mean, with the numbers since you started that program, since you launched that?
I honestly don't know, and this is the thing. This is the other thing I can work on too, because the research debacle is still there. So one of the things I'm hoping to do, like now I don't have like a board or a president or anything, right? So the hell I like, right? So I am hoping I could use my voice, my connections with people like the Honorable Ryan Pinder and Jerome Fitzgerald, who I know is very aware of this. Vaughan Miller, Dr. Neely, my good friend Rochelle Newbold. I think there's some opportunities to look at the restrictions, claw them back a little bit, but let's work together to see, because we've lost the ability to do unfeathered, pure scientific research. I mean, the whole issue was it got tied up with commercial research, and it's killed a lot of research in our country. We've lost people who not only was providing us with research information, but they were supporting communities. They were hiring Bahamian interns. So the research component, I'm not going to talk about that too much today, because that is going to be one of my platforms to try and see if I could bring reason, bring everybody to the table, and bring the friendly researchers back. The ones who want to come and steal our stuff, the legislation is in place, and the Attorney General is very well equipped to deal with people like that. But I think the Minister of Environment needs to be thinking about facilitating research again in our country. It is something that is still plaguing not only foreign researchers, but Bahamian researchers like Dr. Krista Sherman, with Ed Fields' daughter named Candace Fields, CEI, a Bahamian heading up an institution, Dr. Nick Hicks, Spanish Wells PhD intellect and academic is being frustrated out of his mind because of those restrictions. So I'm hoping we can move that needle as well.
A big case in point was the stony coral tissue loss disease debacle.
Still, so we need to answer that question. We need to get our people. My team of former BNT colleagues can't do work on projects funded by DEP, funded by the Ministry of Works, government projects. We aren't able to proceed because of the limitations placed on us by the research debacle. But I believe, I'm 100% convinced that Minister Ryan Pinder, Minister Vaughan Miller, Director Neely, Ms. Newbold, and Jerome Fitzgerald, Senior Policy Advisor, they know the issues, and I know they want to solve it. They want to solve it in the interest of conservation and science, because our Prime Minister cannot continue to talk about climate change if we at the level of monitoring cannot answer the questions about whether Conch are doing better, whether it's because of fisheries or changing climate conditions. The only way to do that is research. And I think we could bring everybody to the table to try and pull it back to where we need it to be.
All right, so we got this text here. This shark thing is, they say, Kerry talks about balance, but there needs to be a week for hunting or fishing for sharks. All around the world, they set time aside for predators. Sharks are taking over. He's lost.
A week.
What do you say to that?
I can't make wrong, right? And that's just wrong. That's a wrong
How
premise.
much damage people could do in a week?
Exactly. I do respect, and I think that there needs to be more dialogue about sharks. And I've told my friends at Pew, the Pew Environment Group, that we work with for sharks. And one of the things we did wrong is that we got sharks protected pretty quickly. The government understood it. They saw the value. And then people walked away, and we didn't do as much education. So, and again, it wasn't the BNT's core responsibility. But this is the thing about the Bahamas National Trust, right, is that because we're such a powerful and effective, I think, organizations, people nationally and internationally sometimes comes to us like, you're the only guys who can do this. You're the only ones. Conch was one in point. We're not a fisheries management agency, but people came to me, scientists, fishermen, everybody, like, Eric, if the National Trust don't do this, and that's no disrespect to the small organizations like Brief or Friends of the Environment, but they said, your scope is national, you have a voice, you need to please bring this to attention. And that's what we did with Conch. But and sharks was the same thing. These people knew that our sharks would be wiped out, and we would have had an ecological disaster in our country. We'd had weak ecosystems, disrupted ecosystems. You guys need to take on sharks, and we took it on, and that's what we do. But it reaches a point where, it's someone else has to do it, because the National Trust does not have the unlimited resources. The staff are already stretched. So what really should have happened is that there should have been other funding made available to continue the education about sharks and to continue the interaction with fishermen. You know, you don't, and in this business, what I've certainly learned is I don't, even though the fishermen cuss me every day, I do not disrespect them. I take their cussing very seriously because hidden in it is frustration. I mean, there's some fellows who just, you know, up to no good and they just want to do what they want and they want to go break the law. But there are a lot of fishermen who understand conservation, who are frustrated by the limits placed on them. And they're frustrated because they don't really understand the value of the conservation measure because they haven't been involved in the discussion. And certainly things like groupers and conch, what I would like to do is, and I've said to people as we write these large grants now for groupers or whatever, let's build into it the funding to hire Bahamian fishermen. So you go to Bahamian commercial fishermen and say, look, we want to do groupers studies for the next 2 weeks or the next week. How much would it cost you? Your full crew, what do you make in a week? And pay them that full value. Take their crew out with the scientists. Let them dive the grouper schools. Let them become published authors. Wow. Let them understand the value of what we're doing on this side and the role that they play. So I think that's where there's some disconnect that we probably could do a better job of those who will remain behind after, since I've left the BNT. A lot more dialogue with fishermen because notwithstanding the fact they're ours, I think there are many in the fishery sector that understand that there is the balance and that we're not on opposite sides of the fence.
Right. Call in, folks. We're talking with Eric Carey, 325-4316. Text us 422-4796, or you can tweet us or Facebook us as well. We got people asking about some of these things, some of the parks in New Providence, but again, not all of these fall under you, right? And they're asking about, they're saying Big Pond it needs some help.
It does need help, and this is a thing. And so we do sit on the board of the Public Parks and Public Beaches Authority, under which Big Pond falls. And again, I think that's just one of those things that went so wayward because there was a lot of work put into Big Pond, the boardwalks, there was a visitor center put in, and I just don't know what happened. Well, I guess you could blame it on COVID. You know, everything went silent, and then it got neglected. I mean, that Big Pond Park is an amazing place that is in the center of our. It's in the center of so many communities. It's close to the University of the Bahamas. It's close to the sports center. There's so many. It's close to Angliston. I mean, there's so many opportunities for engagement that was one that I really felt bad about as a board member of the Public Parks and Public Beaches Authority, that we couldn't really bring that on stream. So yes, the other parks. I mean, the chairman. I work with Mikhail Barnaby, who's the current chair. Lakeisha will now replace me on that board. I think the board is very much concerned about these issues. You got people on the board like Henry Dean, who's very much involved and interested in stuff like that. And I think the chairman, Mikhail, is interested in improving these parks. But there's so much focus of the authority on, contracts and trying to get the island clean and sorting out things that it took him a while to get on top of that. But I think you'll see, Bahamians will see, because the thing that I did say to the chair on the board at my last meeting is that, it's the Bahamas Public Parks and Public Beaches Authority. So, we need to start looking at places in the family islands as well. But yes, these outdoor spaces, whether they are places like, Primeval Forest or Bonefish Pond managed by the Bahamas National Trust, or whether they are community parks, we need more places for people to get outside. And we talked about it after we got released from lockdowns, how people wanted to be outside, how they missed their outdoor spaces. And I remember the first few times we got people into Primeval Forest, and they would just be, just wandering around like lost in nature, and then they missed it. And so there's an opportunity to capitalize on the way people felt about how they missed nature, to get them to fall in love with nature. But you have to have the spaces to get them out. Like Bonefish Pond, I assume both of you have been to Bonefish Pond. It's an incredible outdoor space. And I'm hoping that that will be transformed into a place for Bahamians especially to go. You know, we have a visitor center. We want to put in more trails, boardwalks. There's some beautiful plans that are on the table that I left in place that, we shared them with Minister Sayers last week. And he has promised to do a site visit out there. And I'm hoping that we can get some of this stuff done and pledged, as part of the 50th anniversary. Because Bahamians want to be outside, but you have to have the spaces for them to do it safely and in a rich environment.
Listen to this text. There's a pond in the middle of Steventon, Exuma. It's a secluded pond, and if you did not grow up there, you wouldn't know that it's there. But I would like to adopt it. How do I go about doing that?
And that's a good point of the Public Parks and Public Beaches Authority, because there are a lot of these little ponds and that people would come to the National Trust. Oh, we need this protected. There's only so many things that you can do. But one, local government needs to get involved in environmental issues. And one of my greatest heroes is Basil Mins, who is from Exuma. Basil is in his young 90s, but he, as when he was involved in local government, he brought the environment to the local government council and made them think about environmental issues. So every local government council needs to have an environmental agenda, and things like their public parks or protecting their coastlines or being effective interfaces for the Bahamas National Trust. This needs to become part of what they're doing. And one of the things that we did is put together government relations, a government relations strategy at the Bahamas National Trust, and that is in place, and that has brought us, good interface with the government. And I'm hoping that it could be actually expanded to local government, because things like that little pond, I know it well.
Oh, yeah?
It's a beautiful little pond. It's not something that the BNT would likely take on, but it's something that in conjunction with local government and a presence of the Public Parks and Public Beaches Authority working through local government, something like that could be protected and appreciated.
And you know what needs to happen as well? New Providence needs local government. That's a whole other show. Right? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good day, this is Strachan always along with you and your guest, Dwight.
Hi, good morning again.
Mr. Kerry.
Yes, sir.
Bremen Darling Ferguson here.
Bremen.
I have several questions for you. Now, first I want to explain something to you. The Prince George Dock, right? Before they had dredged that, it came further to Bay Street, right? And on the side of the dock there, the side where before they dredged it, used to have a lot of sea eggs on the side of the dock, which is a delicacy to some people. Also, it had an opening. This was all before it had been dredged. On Prince George Dock, it had an opening whereby the shark used to be under that opening, just later in there. And on the northern side of where the shark used to be, before they had dredged there, where the ship usually parks, right? Docked, I should say. You always got to see the fishes coming from the east and going to the west, and you always got to see the fish coming from the west and going back to the east according to the tide. Now, my question to you pertaining to that portion of the dock, what had happened to those fishes in which used to, be in that area? That's my first question to you.
Well, they would have been displaced. I mean, when people are filling in an area, dredging an area, it happens a piece at a time. So animals are obviously able to move away. Their life is disrupted, but they are probably elsewhere in the harbor. That's just how it works.
What about the sea eggs?
I don't know if they removed them. I know that there was a plan.
Well, they had to remove them because they joined the dock onto it.
Right, so they
new dock onto it.
I can't give you the details of that. You should probably make a reach out to the Department of Environment.
Okay, my other point is, right?
Yes, sir.
On Long Wharf.
Yes, sir.
You had an opening from under the dock, under the street, right, from the beach, and the water used to flow under that, and then going towards Nassau Street. I've noticed that being filled in with sand, so no water flows under there anymore. Other point is, right?
I would suggest you contact the Ministry of Works.
Other point is, right?
With that one.
Every time we have hurricane, the last time we had hurricane, not say the last time, but several years ago when we had hurricane, right? A concrete slab was washed into the beach, right? Several feet off from the sand, right? In the water. So, in other words, to stop people from running into water and diving because you might just strike your head. Why is that haven't been moved?
Again, I would suggest you contact the Ministry of Works.
Okay, some interesting points there. All right, we're running out of time. Just want to ask you, this texter is pretty interesting. Maybe we need to create an environmental task force that can enforce environmental laws, because I think forestry unit has the same complaints as well, right? They're so small, they can't do all these things.
That's BAWEN, Bahamas Wildlife Enforcement Network, which Cabinet has approved. It has. I've been to several of those meetings.
That up yet?
Yeah. The Defense Force, the police, customs, immigration, the Bahamas National Trust, forestry, DMR. It has the support. I've been to several meetings. Minister of National Security, Honorable Wayne Monroe, has attended and participated and given direction and support to the committee. I think it's a very positive move because it brings coordination, because that's part of the problem with enforcement, is no coordination of the efforts. And I certainly saw that because our team was, the BNT team was involved in some of it. I think BAWEN, Bahamas Wildlife Enforcement Network, has the potential to provide, the speaker spoke about environmental task force. I think
who's heading that up now?
That is headed by, I think the minister is the Minister of National Security. It falls on his purview. But the heads of all of those agencies attend those meetings. We have had a representative, BNT. I think an aspect that probably could be improved is that they probably need a few more people from civil society or from society generally. That's often, if there's a complaint that I would have about some of the government committees, is they're just too government centric, and we've moved past that now. People need to be involved. They don't need to be just dictated to by a government agency. But more importantly, those entities should not miss the opportunity for being enriched by the views of civil society or the general public. That would be something I would hope happen.
The question that came from Exuma, I don't know if they might have gotten an answer, but statutorily, can somebody adopt an area?
So you could adopt an area because I want to fund its upkeep, its conservation, which may mean very little, expense-wise, just basically keeping it clean. But it still has to be, it's the local government council, or it might be private. The area actually may be private land, so you need to determine who owns it, and then whether that owner would put it into conservation through donating it to the BNT or the community. And once it's established, then you can have a management prescription put in place, which could include someone adopting it and funding its upkeep. But yes, I think, we have had people adopt areas around, roundabouts, etc. We've had people support certain BNT initiatives through individual philanthropy or corporate support. So, yes, there are opportunities, and I'd love to see. I would love to see that individual follow up with the local government council.
Nice.
Or reach out to me after the show, and I could see if I could point them in the right direction.
Well, that leads us to the final question. So, what is next for Eric Carey?
Yeah, so definitely not retirement. Look, so my dream, I always tell people, when I left Tarpon Bay in 1974 to come to Government High I think that was the final year of Common Entrance. So I got a scholarship, came to Nassau to the Government High School, went through the transition. I don't like Sac people. Right? So I remember flying out on Pan Am, because that's how we flew. We flew jets, right, out of Saudi Lutheran. I remember the airplane banking left, and I saw Top Bay, and I said, I don't even know if I said it out loud or I said, I'll be back. I don't know when. I would have been 10 years old at the time. So I always wanted to go back to Eleuthera, and if I was blessed with good health, I wanted to do things, go back to Eleuthera. I wanted to leave the BNT on my terms, and I wanted to leave the BNT like, as Fred Papaul said, using a 4x1 approach to changing leadership. I've been able to do 2 of them, leave on my own terms. They didn't CYC out of the BNT, or they didn't, whatever. And I've left. I think I've been able to transition in a very powerful, passionate leader. And then Eleuthera, I want to get back to Eleuthera eventually. But I want to get involved in the field. I'm going to launch a company at the end of the month, consultancy. So I will be doing general environmental consultancies. We talk about developers. I mean, a lot of people have reached out to me over the years. I'd love to be able to give people good advice on, don't put this in your development concept because it's not sustainable. It's not good for the environment. And 2, it probably won't be approved by the government, or it's out of scale for this particular island. I want to work with creating awareness amongst Bahamians. I go to resorts all over the country, and staff like, what's this bird? What's this plant? So I want to get involved in teaching people, because visitors ask them all the time, what's this plant? So training and development of the staff, especially small resorts,
Nice.
and also finding ways to train people to make money off of the environment. So more bird guide, nature training. I want to work with the Ministry of Tourism on promoting islands, not just for sun, sand, and sea, but especially my home island, Eleuthera. I want to look at some sustainability issues. I want to get rid of the burning of dumps. That's something I personally want to get rid of. So I want to work with stakeholders on that island. And I know Sweeting's Pond and Clay Sweeting, Minister Clay Sweeting, I know you really wanted to deliver Sweeting's Pond
Somebody's
as a
actually
national
asking
park.
about that. Yeah.
Right. Minister Sweeting and AG Pinder really worked hard because there were some anomalies they had to work out with ownership. I believe Clay Sweeting will deliver Sweeting's Pond within the next few weeks.
Is it true they have the largest seahorse population
in the world?
Yeah. Really?
The world. It's a phenomenal place. So
my goodness,
that is something that if that gets created, declared, then that's something that I would certainly work on raising money for to help the BNT find the resources. Because again, so it's a beautiful place, but to run it as a national park is, it's a $500,000 ticket because you got to hire 10 to 15 people. Those salaries have to be paid. Yeah. The good thing about Seahorse National Park is that you could probably raise money because it's such a beautiful place. And that's something I want to work on. So Eleuthera is going to be really important for me. Sustainability issues on the islands. I'm going to be working, with, One Eleuthera and any other organization that feels they have anything to offer. We'll go from there. But hopefully there'll be some enrichment. The government, I do want to support the Prime Minister's environmental agenda. I think it is very progressive, aggressive. So I want to, if I can lend support to that, certainly I will. But yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like you will be busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will be.
And this will not be the last time we speak on the show.
We'll be
Clearly.
back.
You'll be back. So this is the beginning of an exciting new chapter for you.
It's
and
fun.
we wish you all the best. And thank you for all the wonderful work you've done. Many people are saying that as well. Thank you, Aaron.
Bahamian hero.
Yeah.
So
thank
they
you. Appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Not going into politics.
Zero. Well, that's good. Good to hear that. We look forward to seeing what's next, with hearing about all these wonderful things you hope to accomplish.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Dwight.
It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure.
All right. We'll be back to wrap things up. This is Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio. Stay with us.
Tokyo is calling, and your Scotiabank MasterCard could take you there. For every transaction valued $100 or more with your Scotiabank MasterCard, you receive a digital entry for a chance to win a priceless experience for two in Tokyo, Japan. Online or overseas transactions will double your chance to win. Promotion valid from December 16th, 2022 to January 13th, 2023. Conditions apply. For more information, visit bs.scotiabank.com.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit cfal.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
We're good for you. Whether your business is in store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
Tokyo is calling, and your Scotiabank MasterCard could take you there. For every transaction valued $100 or more with your Scotiabank MasterCard, you receive a digital entry for a chance to win a priceless experience for two in Tokyo, Japan. Online or overseas transactions will double your chance to win. Promotion valid from December 16th, 2022 to January 13th, 2023. Conditions apply. For more information, visit bs.scotiabank.com.
The new Guardian Radio app is here. Listen live to all our Guardian Radio shows and live video stream select programs in our studio. Get information about Guardian Radio shows and our hosts. Send messages, including text, email, and even call. All from our amazing new Guardian Radio app. Download it free today in your App Store for your Apple device or Play Store for your Android device. The all-new and improved Guardian Radio app.
Tokyo is calling, and your Scotiabank MasterCard could take you there. For every transaction valued $100 or more with your Scotiabank MasterCard, you receive a digital entry for a chance to win a priceless experience for two in Tokyo, Japan. Online or overseas transactions will double your chance to win. Promotion valid from December 16th, 2022 to January 13th, 2023. Conditions apply. For more information, visit bs.scotiabank.com.
It is time for your morning business report, brought to you by CFAL. Flight delays that plagued Lynden Pindling International Airport on Monday were caused by air traffic control issues at the Miami Air Route Traffic Control Center. That's according to a statement released by the Ministry of Tourism, Investment and Aviation this week, which also revealed that Nassau air traffic controllers managed almost 700 flights that day. The statement explaining that Miami's en route automation modernization system was at the heart of the issue, as it's responsible for the operation of commercial flights over parts of the Bahamas and Florida. Emirates Airline and the Bahamas agreeing to partner on joint marketing strategies that will increase tourist traffic to the Bahamas from destinations within Emirates routes, with an agreement reached now between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Emirates Group. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation Chester Cooper is saying in a statement that yesterday's agreement is part of the government's ongoing efforts to bring more visitors to the country. Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union President Darren Woods welcoming the new minimum wage, saying that the largest block of his union's membership stands to benefit from the increase. Woods says because that grouping of hotel workers, about 60% of the industry, work shifts that do not amount to 40 hours per week. They often earn lower than the 210 previous minimum wage. And the president of the Bahamian Contractors Association, Leonard Sands, says that he projects construction activity to surpass pre-pandemic levels in 2023. In addition to numerous luxury residential developments in western New Providence, the new Nassau Cruise Port, and ongoing construction of the new U.S. Embassy in the city center, Atlantis Resort says it intends to begin construction in the upcoming months of its new hotel concept. British Colonial is also expected to undergo renovations sometime in the first half of this year, as developers hope to soon add those rooms to the market. Read more on these stories in today's Guardian Business section. Overseas from the U.S., the Mega Millions jackpot increasing to an estimated $940 million after another drawing resulted in plenty of losers, but not a single grand prize winner. The numbers drawn late Tuesday were 25, 29, 33, 41, 44, and Gold Mega Ball 18. The next drawing is scheduled for Friday night. The new $940 million jackpot is for a winner who chooses to be paid through an annuity over 29 years, but nearly all winners opt for a cash payout, which for Friday night's drawing would be an estimated $483.5 million. In Tuesday's drawing, there were more than 2.9 million winning tickets of various amounts, including $4 million tickets sold in Arizona, Mississippi, and South Dakota. The lack of a winner of an estimated $785 million jackpot Tuesday means there have been 23 straight drawings without anyone taking the top prize. The new jackpot will be the sixth largest jackpot in U.S. history. The jackpot winning drought isn't surprising, though, given the daunting odds of 1 in 302.6 million of winning the top prize. In your Market Watch, recapping trading on the BISX. From Tuesday, your market movers, AML Foods Limited moving 350 shares, unchanged at $6.95. Bank of the Bahamas moving $6.82, unchanged at $2.61. Commonwealth Bank moving $26,698, unchanged at $3.58. Consolidated Water unchanged at $2.96. Emira Incorporated unchanged at $9.35. The BISX All Share Index closing at 2,645.06, unchanged. That's your Market Watch. And that is your morning business report, brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. And as we wrap up, just a quick look at your weather. We got broad high pressure extending over the area. That's going to generate gentle to moderate winds and mostly dry and warm conditions across the islands while retreating eastwards through tonight. So expect partly to mostly sunny and warm conditions today with a chance of brief passing showers. Mostly fair tonight with a slight chance of a brief passing shower or two. For the next couple of days, high pressure across the area will retreat eastwards ahead of an approaching weakening cold front that's expected to bring quite a bit of rain into late Thursday, early Friday. High pressure will build across the area behind that front into the weekend, though. Chester Robards, thank you so much for being here on this first Wednesday of the new year, 2020.